Welcome to Welcome to the City of Opa-locka Regular Commission meeting. Today is December 8th, 2021, 7 p.m. Roll call.
Commissioner Bass.
I'm here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here. Invocation, Commissioner Bass.
Father, we say thank you for this day. We say thank you, Lord God, for the gift of life. We say thank you, Lord God, for our friends, our family, our relatives. Father God, we thank you, Lord God, for our community. We thank you, Lord God, for every department, Lord God, for every resident of the great city of Opa-locka. Father God, as we stand here, Lord God, making decisions, oh God, that will impact the lives of many, God. We ask you that you will give us wisdom. You give us knowledge, revelation, and understanding. And help us, oh God, to govern according to your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance. Okay, at this time, we will present any awards, proclamations, and acknowledgements. I believe at this time, as we can see, we have our award-winning City of Opa-locka Optimist 10U and 14U Super Bowl champions, correct?
Yes.
All right, so we'll have the City of Opa-locka Parks and Recreation Department come up at this time.
Good evening, everybody. So my name is Delvin Patterson. I'm the Parks and Rec Director here in the City of Opa-locka. And as you see in the back, this is what our future looks like. Can we get another round of applause for our young men? So tonight we honor the kids and coaches of our very own Opa-locka Hurricane football program. These kids and coaches work hard each and every Saturday. From our 8U, our 10U, our 12U, and our 14U, they all had great seasons producing Super Bowl champs for our 10U and our 14U and Super Bowl runner-ups for our 12U. They did an outstanding job in our Parks Department, along with the City Manager's office, and the Mayor Commission commends a job well done. Let's give them a hand as they come up. Also, I would like to thank the staff who worked very hard with our football program. We have Coach DeCari standing here to the right. We have Ms. Swift and we have Coach Williams. They all did an excellent job helping out our program. Can I have Mayor and Commission along with Assistant City Manager come down and take a picture with our Super Bowl champs, please?
Check 1, 2, check.
We just want to say congratulations. It's so wonderful when we see children in our community just, doing the right thing, making it happen. Give them a round of applause again. We know they're gone, but they could be anywhere. They could be anywhere else, and they decided to play football and be winners at it. So we do not have a consent agenda, so we will go to the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Taylor. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay, we'll approve the minutes for our commission meetings. First is our regular commission meeting minutes for October 27th, 2021. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, can I have a motion to move the regular commission meeting minutes, November 10th, 2021?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Roll call.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, can I have a motion to move the special commission meeting minutes, November 17th, 2021?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Roll call.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
And we need a motion to approve special commission meeting minutes for November 22nd, 2021.
Move
Move
it.
it.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, at this time, do we have any District 1 or District 2 County Commission reports? And is anyone online? Okay. Moving on, at this time, we will have public presentations. If Mr. James Silva from the Shotspotter Incorporation is here, and we'll be happy to oblige you to listen to your presentation at this time.
Thank you for your patience. I'm joining my colleague, Jason Silva, who is the sales executive for ShotSpotter. My name is Ron Teachman. My title is Director of Public Safety Solutions. I understand I have about 10 minutes. Let me try to be judicious in the use of my time. First of all, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, members of the commission, other city officials, thank you very much for the time that you've generously allotted us tonight to come and visit with you and briefly explain what ShotSpotter can do for Opa-locka. Just by way of brief introduction, I've been with the company 6 years. Prior to that, I was a police officer for 38. 8 of those years, I was a police chief. And most notably, I installed this system in both cities where I served, cities with about 100,000 population, my hometown of New Bedford, Massachusetts, and more recently in South Bend, Indiana. And having shared the experience of Chief Jackson now, in his experience in his prior work, having seen the solution and what it can do, very pleased to be able to share that experience with you briefly tonight. And then if you have any questions, please interrupt me. And certainly I hope we will allow for time for Q&A at the end. Let me just begin by telling you a story. And that is tonight in some neighborhood of Opa-locka, perhaps while we're asleep, in some neighborhood, there might be gunfire. Not sure why the audio's not coming through. In any event, the reality is that that gunfire will be unreported. Most gunfire, overwhelmingly, is not reported to the police. At best, they get only a small amount. National average is well under 20%. And what do we expect our police officers to do? To arrive at a scene, treat a victim, gather evidence to identify the perpetrator who may be terrorizing a neighborhood, to bring them to justice. The chance of success for police departments when all they have is 911 is well less than 20%. Meanwhile, the shootings continue unabated. And that spreads fear in the community. And let me just briefly give you the perspective of perhaps one of your constituents in Opa-locka. Awakened at night by the sound of gunfire, they go down the hall and check on a child and comfort that child who's crying, who's also awakened. And after a brief period, they go to the front window of the house and discreetly peer through the blinds, waiting for a police response. From their perspective looking out, and I'm sorry about the lighting, you can't quite see, but from their perspective looking out, they expect a response. And why wouldn't they? We tend to project omniscience to our police departments based on our experience of watching television, where every crime gets solved and every offender gets arrested. Let me ask you rhetorically, if that person looking out their window thinks the police know, but the police don't show, what might they think about their police department? They might think they don't care. And they might attribute that failure to respond to race or class or immigration status. But Shotspotter can help, because we say, what if there was a way to address all these concerns? Officer safety, public perception, community trust, and violence reduction. We can help you detect, protect, connect. That is, we will, and I'll show you how we do it in a moment, but we will be able to give you comprehensive notification when gunfire occurs. Tell you precisely where it is. Our accuracy is well within the size of this room. We'll tell you what happened, where it happened, and when it happened. That helps the police by better protecting them to better protect the community. Now, just a brief overview of the company. We've been in business for over 25 years, currently serving over 120 cities, including many here in Florida. I'll show you that in a moment. Over 820 miles of service. We have a 97% customer satisfaction rating, and our 40 patents distinguish us in the public safety industry. So as you consider bringing this to Opa-locka, you can certainly check with many of your neighbors here in Florida where we're deployed and have been successful. So how does it work? Again, we tell you what happened, where it happened, and when it happened. Normally what we do is a crime analytics with the police department to determine what neighborhoods historically have had the most gun violence. This is just a sample. We'll build a coverage area, build it out geographically. You determine where you want it in conjunction with your police chief and his administration. And then we set about building a dome of protection. Now, how do we do that? We put sensors on rooftops of buildings and on utility poles in this coverage area. When a gunshot occurs, the system detects and locates. That is, we can hear the gunshots from a half mile to a mile and a half away from each sensor. The sensors are built in a network. The best analogy I could offer you is think of your cell phone where you have cell towers and mini cells all through this region that give you cell phone coverage. Well, much like your relationship with your cell phone provider, we will do the same. We will build this network of sensors. And when a gunshot occurs, the system detects it. Now, how does it locate? By simply measuring the time that it took for the sound of the gunfire to reach the sensors through triangulation. And you know the speed of sound is slow, just from your own experience as a child with lightning and thunder. It takes about 4.5 seconds for a gunshot to travel a mile. So once the system has detected it and located it, the next important step is differentiating that noise as gunfire from all the other things that go in a city, like fireworks, truck backfires, jackhammers, helicopters, and other city noises. And we do that very effectively because we send all this information up to the cloud with some artificial intelligence as a filter, but we don't dispatch on AI alone. We have a human being review each noise event that the computer suggests is gunfire, filtering out most of the other noises. And they go through a series of steps where they listen to the audio, they look at the acoustic signature waveform configuration, and look at the sense of participation. So we're very accurate at filtering out all the other noises and only dispatching your police when gunfire occurs. That whole process takes under 60 seconds to have the police en route to the precise location, increasing the likelihood of saving a life and identifying the perpetrator. But also, we encourage the police to take one small but critical step, and that is to go around the neighborhood where a gunshot occurs, ring doorbells, knock on doors, and speak to residents to assure them that they're there because they care, and to offer their assistance to say a child was traumatized, to make sure that we check their property, that no offender is still on the property, that no bullet damage occurred, to assure them that they're there to serve and protect. Now that dispatch goes out simultaneously to your 911 communication center, to officers' squad cars, both to their tablets and laptops, to their phones, and even to their smartwatches. And we perform both on Android and iOS platforms. Let me just give you quickly a view of what this would look like from the police officer's perspective. They'd have a distinct noise, and I'm sorry that my audio is not coming through on this Zoom session. They'd hear a noise that would cause them to look at their device. Say they looked at their laptop, they would see what you're seeing on the screen. The number of rounds fired, 25-meter, 82-foot radius, that's our initial crime scene. The nearest street address, timestamp, to exact time that happened, to the millisecond. And we give the police qualitative information about the event, such as more than one gunshot that occurred, more than one shooter rather, with a high capacity weaponry, full automatic, and so forth. And then we give the sequence of the shots fired, and that helps to determine in a multiple shooter situation who the primary aggressor was. We can also help the police chief with analytics, such as looking, and even officers on their phones can see what has occurred in the last 24 hours, as you can see here, the last 3 days, and the last 7 days in the coverage area. I'll show you another example close to us here in Florida. 24 hours of gunfire, 3 days and 7 days. And as a chief and his assistant chief are reviewing the data, they can make corrections in their deployment, such as any use of overtime or task forces. So you see a concentration of gunfire, you respond to it right away. Let me close in the time that I have with explaining some of the other benefits, and that is not only integrating with other technologies like video feeds, license plate readers, UAVs and drones, but also other strategies that you may have in place to reduce gun violence, such as informing street outreach program. Where should they be working? What neighborhoods are most in need of those assets? Focused deterrence, and I'll close with trauma-informed care. Recognizing that when people are exposed to gun violence, so it's the gun violence victims are not just those where a bullet penetrates flesh. When people are exposed to gun violence, when it's occurring in their neighborhoods, it's traumatic. And it not just harms psychologically, but particularly for our young people, just like those who are lining the back wall here today. Their brains are still in development. We don't finish our brain development to our early 20s. This is called adverse childhood experiences. So the remedy that Shotspotter can assist is take those dots where the gunshots occurred, especially when you see a cluster, and have the chiefs share that with the school officials and identify those children who are at risk and get them trauma-informed care through the schools. I think that's the time I've been allotted. Let me stop there and just say, with Shotspotter, you'll have a different outcome. Your residents will see a police response from your police department to help lower the gun violence in Opa-locka. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Teachman. Thank you for the presentation. At this time, if the commission would like to ask questions or have any comments, the floor is open. I believe Vice Mayor Taylor has the floor.
Okay, so my question is, being that our city is about 4 square miles big, half of that being industrial, how much would this cost our city?
So our pricing, which is adjusted for the fact that you are a smaller city in population and by the number of sworn, our price point is $49,500 per square mile per year. That comes out to, just give you the numbers here. That would cost you $5.60 per hour per mile. $5.60 per hour per mile to have constant surveillance over a mile up to 2 miles of coverage in your city. Now, we don't expect to cover the entire city. We'll work with your police administration to determine where it's most needed based on crime data and then deploy it strategically. But you will tell us where you want it in conjunction with your police administration, and we'll make the deployment happen.
And through this program, I guess, do you guys allow financing, or can you help us with grants to fund this program?
Absolutely. We have a team of folks in our company that will work with anyone from the commission or through the police chief to help you identify funding, whether it's earmarks, whether it's American Rescue Plan money, whether it's other grants. And I'm happy to come back here and meet with anybody in the private sector because we have several of our city customers where they have private sector contribution, most notably the healthcare industry, but also many of the businesses who realize the economic impact of crime.
So what's the total cost? Not by mileage, but like the total cost. Can you give
It depends on how
give me
much.
that? How much?
Okay,
space?
let's say if you want 2 square miles of coverage, that would be $99,000 per year.
99,000
Correct.
per year.
Yeah, 49.5 per mile per year, 99,000 for 2 miles.
Okay, and comparable to the city of Opa-locka in size and in residents, do you have anybody to compare us to? Because I'm looking on your website, and the only thing I see that's relative to us, well, that I know of, would be Miami-Dade. Well, it says Miami, Florida, and it has a 35% reduction rate of homicides from 2014 to 2017. Are you still in the city of Miami
Yes,
currently?
yes.
So these statistics are as of, they're not.
I think those were last 2019 to 2020. I'm not sure if they've been refreshed since 2020.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else from the commission?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Bass?
thank you so much for taking the time out to come and present to us. You said something that struck a chord with me. About a month and a half ago, I was at work and we had some of our students outside on the PE court, and they heard a car backfire, and she was just in a bad place. She ran and she started screaming. I held on to her and I comforted her and let her know it wasn't a bullet, it was a car. So you're right. It's imperative that we find a solution to at least try to lessen the gun violence or be able to pinpoint it when it happens. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
thank you. Thank you for coming out today to present on the Shotspotter on technology. We're very familiar with the technology. Our neighbors to the north, Miami Gardens, I believe were also clients of you guys. They also, didn't have it throughout the city. They had them in, I guess the high crime areas, that being the Bunch Park community. And I do know that that program ultimately went well over the years. I was particularly excited about two particular components. One being the constant monitoring and data tracking to circumvent the cycle of violence in our communities, if you will, and also to better inform our services and our resources as a police department. I know in particular, I see former Commissioner Mayor Kelly in the audience, and I know that he actually led the charge to sponsor legislation to require our multifamily complexes of a certain size to require police security. We actually amended it. First it was regular security, and then we amended it to require police security to address some of those high traffic crime areas. So I'm very excited to see this opportunity. Obviously, dealing with the financing and the cost is another aspect, but thank you for presenting, and we look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teachman. I know that several cities neighboring us do have a Shotcaller program, as well as, just like Ms. Bass, near where I work also. It's imperative. It's one of those things that allows us to narrow down whether we should go on lockdown or not, or what we should move, how we should move, and how fast we should move. Specifically, when we're dealing with children. My question, I think I have a few of them, and I guess this could be to the city manager's office. If I recall, didn't Congresswoman Wilson, I recall earlier in the year, we had some Zoom meetings and some discussion about bringing this to Opa-locka, or was it a
Yes.
specific area?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we requested appropriations through Congresswoman Frederica Wilson's office for this particular project. And I spoke with her office today, and it's still in appropriation. It has not gone through the process yet. And so her office told me tomorrow they're going to look into it and see how far it's gotten, but it hasn't been passed yet in Congress, and it has not gone over to the Senate. So it's still there, but it hasn't went through the process.
Okay.
Total process.
It's test. Okay. I know that it's still in the Senate Appropriations. I just wanted to know if, how far, because it is a very expensive program, as we can see. And if we're doing a presentation today, I'm almost sure that, Mr. Teachman, you've studied Opa-locka and our square mileage. I guess what I'm wondering is, Commissioner Taylor asked the cost. I'm almost sure there's a total cost. You gave it to us in 2 square miles, but not a total cost. And I'm almost sure there is one. So is that something that you can let us know what that is for the city?
So my understanding, based on conversations that my colleague Jason has had with the deputy chief, is you're certainly welcome to cover the entire city, but we think that 2 square miles can have a significant impact on addressing the gun violence in your city. Gun violence tends to be very concentrated in some neighborhoods. As I heard earlier, you have a lot of industrial area. That's not usually where the persistent gunfire occurs, and that's not where neighbors are traumatized. So addressing the residential neighborhoods that are seeing and witnessing gun violence, we'll look at the data, but our preliminary view is that we think we can have a significant impact with 2 square miles. And that would come to $99,000. That includes training, that includes everything that you would need on your end. It's a subscription based. You have no responsibility for the installation, no responsibility for hardware maintenance, software upgrades. Everything we provide is all included in that price.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you will work with our police department to narrow down where those high concentrated areas are in order to move forward to create what those 2 square miles would be in order to have that shot collar program.
Correct. And
Okay.
ShotSpotter can provide a preliminary proposal as to that geographic area that's covered, subject to your review and approval. But we think that we can work with Chief Jackson and his administration to identify those areas rather readily with some simple crime analysis.
Okay. And again, and just the conversation I was having with the city manager's office, I would like for us to make sure that we're looking at all the programs that are available to us, especially in our surrounding city, to make sure the data is there and up to date. I do know, again, I'm being on a Zoom call with Congresswoman Frederica Wilson earlier in the year. I know this is something huge that she wants to bring into the city of Opa-locka. So I would like to make sure that when those, and I'm saying when, because I'm hopeful that it will go through the Senate appropriations, that we will be able to fund this through the Senate, through the Congresswoman's office. If not, then I'm sure we'll have meetings with her to, figure out how we can work together jointly to make it happen. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor. I
Thank
speak for
you.
Jason and myself to say we'll pledge our full support to help you find the funding, whether it's a federal source, any other public source, or even the private sector to bring this to Opa-locka. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, really quick.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
I support the program fully, but I do have one question. I think that, I believe that our dispatching is done through Miami-Dade County. So my question is, how would the systems interface with our officers? How would the 2 systems work?
So once we have determined that that acoustic event is a gunshot, we will simultaneously notify your 911 communication center. And let me say parenthetically, that's the norm in most cities across the country, where you do not have an in-house communication system. It's countywide or it's regionalized. That's been the trend in the last decade, is to regionalize our communication centers for scale. So while they're being notified, at the very same time, we're going to send these alerts to the desktops at headquarters, but more importantly, out to the field where officers are on patrol or detectives. They'll get that notification on their laptop in their squad car. They'll get it on their tablet if they have one. They'll get it on their phone and even on their smartwatch. So if an officer's walking a beat out of the car, because we want our officers working with the community, not tied to the dashboard, if you will. And I say that as an ex-police chief. As they're in the community, serving the community, they'll get immediate notification on their device to call them to action to go save a life and respond to the gunshots.
Okay, so it's without delay, pretty much. All right, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Teachman.
Thanks again for your time.
Okay. Continuing with our agenda, at this time, we have citizens forum. Citizens forum is open. Please remember that you are limited to 3 minutes for your questions and comments.
Deborah Sheffield Irby, 14202 Northwest 17th Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida. The first thing I want to talk about this evening is the fact that last week, the water was out for 2 days, off and on all day. I made several phone calls to City Hall. Couldn't reach anyone. The first place I called, of course, was Public Works. But finally, I got in touch with Shemeka and I knew everything would be okay. Shemeka is a good girl. But I asked that someone let me know whether or not we should boil the water What should we do with the water? Is it safe to drink? I haven't heard back from anyone. So that kind of bothered me because water main break is a serious issue. And all the citizens should be informed whenever that happens, because I think we still have the code red, Joanna. Is it the code red? Yeah, where you can contact every citizen in the city on that one code. So I just want you to be mindful of that. Furthermore, I would like to say that when we were doing the term limits, very few of us was involved in that. There was a group, but half of that group was for the commissioners, the former commissioners, who did not want term limits. So their job was to make sure we didn't get the signatures, but of course we did. We got the signatures, we got the term limits, and we worked hard for you guys to see some young people up here, educated, new ideas. You know, we worked hard for you. And don't let nobody come and take that away from you. All these people who've been here before for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, no. Do what is right. And I'm here to support Audra Dominguez, along with former Mayor John Riley, former City Attorney Patricia Ellis, and former City Commissioner Gail Miller. Okay, let me see if there was anything else I needed to say. Yeah, just don't let people come and you're here, and we're glad you're here. I worked hard for you guys, I really did. And so just keep that in mind, keep the faith, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be okay. That's it.
Good afternoon. Former Commissioner Gail Miller, this great city of Opa-locka. I'm here because I like for the manager to find out why is the airplanes flying over people's house 2 o'clock in the morning? Okay, I woke up the other morning, the thing was sitting right on top of my house almost. What time do they need to stop flying in? Since Perry Airport, seems like we're getting more airplanes coming into Opa-locka Airport. Now, 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning, that's what's going on. That's one thing. The second thing, I'm second with Ms. Irby. Do you all do the right thing? Commissioner Bass was next in line. She's sitting up there. Ms. Audrey is next in line. She need to be sitting up there. Please, y'all do the right thing. I'm tired of lawsuits. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of getting sued in this doggone city because nobody don't want to listen, okay? We got people sitting up in here who have sued this city and still working, only in Opa-locka. I worked for Dade County over 30 years. When you get fired from Dade County, you sue Dade County, you fired, you out of there. Mommy God's only in Opa-locka. We keep everybody sue us for millions of dollars and still get paid from the citizens of Opa-locka. I'm through talking about everything. I just want y'all to do the right thing. I would like to wish the staff, the commissioners, the citizens of this great city, Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year. And may God bless each and every one of you all. And please do the right thing.
Hello, this is Natasha Irvin, 670 Dunat Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida. I'm coming today to ask, well, as you all know, we are preparing for our toy drive. For years, Commissioner Burt has supported our toy drive. He walked the streets of Opa-locka, getting businesses to donate money to our toy drive. Like every day, Tasha, I got a check for you. It's not much today, but I got a check for you. Always had a check for me. And because he put so much work and effort into this toy drive, I'm asking you guys whether I'm still helping with the toy drive or whether you are in office or not, that no matter what, that the toy drive becomes the Commissioner Alvin Burt's annual toy drive. That's what I would like to see happen with the toy drive, if that is at all possible, a resolution be made making that happen, because he worked extremely hard for the toy drive. And for those people that always donate to the toy drive through him, they've managed to contact me, like his retired corrections. They contacted me yesterday, I think, the day before yesterday, to give me a $500 check in memory of his name. And I'm also supposed to receive some toys from some of those that did not donate towards the toy drive this year. So that's my thing. That's what I would like to see happen, that the city of Opa-locka's toy drive be the Commissioner Alvin Burke's annual toy drive, if possible. Thank you. And that's it. And you all are welcome to come. Hopefully we'll see you all on next week, the 18th. Commissioner Bass, you're not getting out of wrapping gifts. We started today. Okay. Mayor, you too, everybody. We have lots of toys that we need to be trying to wrap. And I look forward to seeing everybody. And if you haven't registered, those at home listening, if you're Opa-locka residents, please come to the park so you can register for a toy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Retired Chief Cheryl Kaysen, Opa-locka address 781 Curtis Drive, here of the great city of Opa-locka. And I have a retired major from the Opa-locka Police Department as well. And we just want to say something, ask some questions and just say a little something. You want to go first? Okay, Madam Mayor, to you first. As we know, our historian Carrie Meek passed away, and her funeral was yesterday. We know that she was the first African-American woman in Congress. She was a teacher, of Florida, of course, of Florida. She was a teacher, and she was a lot of many positive things, a mother, grandmother, aunt. She was a Delta. She was a great woman. She visited us. She came to Opa-locka religiously, regularly, and she helped us. She brought us out of the oversight in 2000. Isn't that correct? You remember? Commissioner Meeks, I'm sorry. Well, anyway, I'm telling you, this I happen to know. Okay, and and I'm saying, I looked at the funeral and I saw Commissioner Bass was there. Commissioner Taylor was there. And I know Commissioner Johnson, she personal with the family, but I'm saying this to say, that we had no representation other than you guys there, and I mean from law enforcement. Chief, you know that Carrie Meeks was very instrumental in the city of Miami Police Department. Isn't that correct? Yes. So, and we had no one there. Congress came to the Opa-locka airport. We didn't have law enforcement there. I mean, people coming through our city. This lady was a great landmark. She was a great person. She brought everything to everybody she could. And Opa-locka was one of her home teams that she took care of. And we did not, we didn't represent at all. And I felt bad. We got a motorcycle officer, you know, we got officers, you know, why weren't we there? Why? Why? One day, guess what? It's gonna be new people to take your place, and we're gonna see to it that you get recognized when it's your turn. She left a legacy, a great legacy here in Opa-locka. She helped this city tremendously, and somebody need to do their background and should have brought, and I know some of you already know though, but should have brought it, and we should have insisted. Chief, we should have did a little better with that, but me and you will get with that, okay? Because I'm real adamant about stuff and upfront, and I'm serious. Now, this is what I want to say, Madam Mayor, being a Delta, and well, I'm requesting y'all that we do something for Carrie Meek. Have an Opa-locka day, a Carrie Meek day, or something somebody bring forth. Invite the people. Let's do something. Y'all agree? Everybody agree? Yes. Shall we do something? Yes. 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 Is that okay? Okay. I'm gonna be nice tonight. Okay. Let's do this. Oh, and as far as the election, let me get that out of the way too. Remember the last commission meeting, I say mama and them. My saying for that was mama and them still directing us. Mama and them knew what we were gonna do before we did it because they did it. But they still hold our hand and direct us and try to keep us from being in the fire. We gotta do what we gotta do. We gotta do what's right. We gotta do what's best, but use your heart, because I'm always gonna be here as a mentor or any direction that I could give for you. Yeah, I'm much older than a lot of you. I know most of you, but anyway, I'm just gonna say that. And guess what? I'm gonna always, hopefully, prayerfully, that you will listen to my direction as others will follow you. All of us are examples, and always give back. Don't let nobody tell you you're too old to give back, because you're not. That's how we learn from the people that were the trailblazers that set the pace for us. You're setting it now for people futuristic. The only thing get old is the days, and tomorrow never comes. Today is tomorrow. Thank you.
Dottie Johnson, 13724 Northwest 22nd Place, to the mayor, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and Commission. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention. On 27th Avenue, from 125th Street to Alabama, a lot of the traffic lights are out. On the way coming to the meeting, I almost had 2 accidents. One was with a person in a wheelchair, no lights, all dark clothes, and it was kind of like pitch dark. The other one was a bicycle with a little boy riding. All of them had dark clothes on, and someone was on the back of the bike holding on, no lights. I think on 27th Avenue, there was an accident, because I know it was when my neighbor's cousin running to the bus stop, she got killed. So really, I think that's something that you need to bring to Dade County and the state attention, and probably put a public announcement out. Around the garbage can and around the bus benches, a lot of trash. So if you can look into that, I would greatly appreciate it. You made the resolution for the charter board, but if you're gonna put it on the election, and you have some veterans in here that can get that done, so if you could. You made your appointment for the Community Relation Board, but there have not been any meetings. So if you can get that started, it probably can help out a lot. I totally support Ms. Irvin, Natasha's toy drive, and I always give a donation, and I'm trying to get some money to contribute toward that toy drive. So if we have one in the city, but multiple ones, and one on one side and one on the other. I wasn't raised in Opa-locka, but my grandfather bought a house, used to be across from the pit. And I've always been able to come to Opa-locka, but the west side and the east side is just one city. So I think it would divide it, and I think that if you're going to help get contribution for it, do it as one city and not split it up. Thank you.
Audrey Dominguez, 1147 Jen Avenue. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I just wanted to talk to you about an event that Miami-Dade College is having, which is called the Children's Holiday at North. It's going to be Saturday, and they're going to be collecting toys, but it's going to be donated to Toys for Tots. And this event has live stage performances, children arts and crafts, food, exhibits, games, and street parade. And also Santa is supposed to be coming, I'm thinking in a helicopter, I'm not sure. If you've been promising your kids to take them to Santa's Enchanted Forest, this is a place because it's free. Santa's Enchanted Forest costs almost $40. So I would recommend you guys going, bring your kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, because it's gonna be a great event. Thank you.
Okay, citizens forum is open. All right. Citizens forum is now closed. So I do know we had several citizens come up and share their thoughts. The water main break, I'm hoping that the manager's office will get back to, okay. Because that's important. And I think that if there was one in the city, then even if it's in a specific area, we all should, everyone in the city should know that happened. And of course, the Booster Club knows where we lie when it comes to the support of children in our city and the yearly toy drive that you all give every year. And we're so appreciative that you do that every year and that you've done it and continue to do it. And that you want to continue that in Burke's name. I would like to respond to the comment about Carrie Meek. There is a thing that we do in our sorority that is called the Omega Omega. And if you don't know, and I want to make sure I'm clear, I was there. It is a closed ceremony. I was also on program for that. If you're not a Delta and you're not there, you would not know that. So I do want to be clear that I was there. I was also at the wake. And it was moving because I got to meet and experience a lot of senators that were there at Miami-Dade College. I believe that was Thursday night. But again, the closed ceremony that we do is it's moving and it's touching, and so many of my sheroes are the shero. She was their shero. And so not just because she's a Delta, she is a Delta, but she is our number one shero that spirals. So of course, we're going to, and you're already with me because Carrie Meek is definitely one of the reason why I sit here today, So we will continue to honor her. I was very disappointed myself when I saw the honor guard on the stage at the wake and did not see Opa-locka represented. And I need to be clear, and I say that That was very disappointing for me. I saw every city that she touched there at the Honor Guard as well in the processional at the wake. And again, that processional brought us in, those that participate in that Omega ceremony. So that was, we do have to do better. We have to do better. Thank you. Anyone else from the commission?
Madam, to all of the residents who stood up and let your voices be heard, I thank you. Because truth be told, sometimes I'm only aware of what's going on because you tell us in this meeting. And some of that is my fault and some of that is our city's fault, that we are not always abreast of what's going on in the city. And shame on us for that. We need to do better. We need to do better. We need to be more notified as commissioners of what's going down in the city, because if, like I said, if you don't tell us, we don't know. And how can we represent you not knowing? So thank you so much for that. And my sentiments exactly, Madam Mayor, as it relates to Meek's homegoing. I was there, I was disappointed, and I'm gonna leave it as that. And again, I was disappointed. Let's just leave it like that. And thank you all. And continue to come up and say what you need to say, because if you don't say it, sometimes we just don't know it. And we need to know what's going on, quote unquote, in the streets. We need to know, because we can't serve you unless we know. And we're not going to be able to read everything, watch everything. We need your voices. Your voices need to be heard. This is your city. This is our city, and we are Opa-locka. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Number one, I too attended the funeral, and we'll leave it at that. But I do want to make a comment on something that came up as it relates to the toy drive. To the Booster Club publicly, there was no ill intentions of trying to divide the city. So I want to make that perfectly clear. There are 16,000 residents in this city. And if we counted the children, I'm sure it's triple of that. So I'm trying to say it. There's no ill intentions. There's no ill intentions. So I don't want it to look like I'm putting on for one and not the other, because that's not the case. These are children. And I don't think that we should use this to battle, to say that you doing for this side, but you ain't doing for this side, the east side versus the west side. That's not the case. There's some children on the east side that don't come to the west side. There's some kids on the west side that don't come to the east side. But we are, like we said, one Opa-locka. That's why the toy drive is at the same time, and it caters to the whole city. Your toy drive is advertised just like the toy drive on the east side is advertised. It was never any ill intentions. And I also reached out to help and to actually collaborate. But that conversation, we know how it went. So I don't want it to make it seem like that Vice Mayor Taylor had ill intentions, because that's not the case. And instead of us I don't want us to run with those rumors, because you know how Opa-locka is. I don't have an issue with nobody in the Booster Club. I like everybody in the Booster Club, just like I like everybody in Teen Up with Bound. So I want to squash that now, because I don't want that to fester on, because that's not the case. I'm done, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We'll continue with our agenda. At this time, our action items. Action item number 15-1. Madam Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, approving the final site plan review request for the construction and operation of an industrial warehouse, distribution and office space development building located at 12805 Lejeune Road, and identified by folio 08-2129-000-0061 in the I3 zoning district, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Okay, need a motion to move it.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm gonna ask that our Community Development Director, Mr. Gay, Gregory Gay, come to the podium.
Madam Mayor, Commission, Gregory Gay, Director of Planning and Community Development. Items 1, 2, and 3 are companion items associated with the development of a warehouse facility on the western edge of the city of Opa-locka. This particular facility is approximately 247,000 square feet. It is going to be a new facility replacing an existing warehouse facility that was built in the late 60s and early 70s. American Fruit, some of you may be familiar with it. It's on Northwest 42nd Avenue and approximately 129th Street. This new facility is going to bring a Class A warehouse facility to our city. It is in the industrial area, so it is properly zoned for that particular activity. The purpose of the variance, which is the next item, the developers wanted to maximize the amount of parking that they will be able to provide for this particular facility. Under the present zoning category for this particular use, based on the square footage, they would, under normal circumstances, be able to get approximately 150 parking spaces on this particular site based on their design. They're looking at doing close to 250, which will make this property much more marketable. The parking configuration would be changed from a 10-foot by 20-foot parking configuration to a 8-foot by 18-foot, which is somewhat of a compact parking spaces. But as we know, a lot of vehicles these days, especially family vehicles, are much smaller than the vehicles that we've had in past years. But they are providing parking that will be allowed for that maximum amount of parking spaces. And the third item would be the development agreement associated with this particular development. Our development agreement speaks to specific standards as it relates to the development timeline and making sure that this project is done in accordance with our guidelines, as well as Miami-Dade County, as they are a part of the review process. And it does also focus on the opportunity for employment opportunities through South Florida Career Source to assist in promoting opportunities for employment for residents within the city of Opa-locka. That's the presentation. They do have representation here. If you have any specific questions that you would like to ask, the representatives for this particular project are available to address those particular concerns.
Okay, so this is a public hearing item. So public hearing is now open.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Tracy Slavens. I'm with the Law Office of Holland and Knight at 701 Brickell Avenue. I'm here this evening to represent Prologis Logistics Services, who is also joining me tonight, along with our architecture team, engineering team, and our economic expert. As Mr. Gay mentioned, we are here for approval of a site plan, a variance to allow a reduction of parking stall dimensions, and a development agreement for the project. Because the screen is small, we just handed you the deck of our slides in case you'd like to see it up close. I'd like to incorporate this presentation for all three applications this evening. And before I continue, I do want to thank staff for all the hard work in getting us here tonight. They've been wonderful to work with, and I've really appreciated all their efforts. On the next slide, you can see the property location, which is at 12805 Lejeune Road. It's surrounded by industrial. It's zoned I3 and it has the mixed use overlay. On the next slide, you can see existing conditions of the building. It has actually since been demolished since these photos were taken. It was an outdated 100,000 square foot warehouse. There was also a truck driving school and a trailer terminal on the parking lot behind the site. Next slide, please. We are proposing to develop a state-of-the-art warehouse facility here that will have industrial uses, but primarily storage and distribution. We have about 25,000 square feet of office space that will be in companion to the industrial use. And our parking will accommodate all of the employees. And I think that's the important point about the variance. The design of the parking spaces follows the Florida Building Code and the Miami-Dade County Code for an 8.5 by 18 foot parking space. That will allow us to have approximately 250 parking spaces, and we do actually anticipate having approximately 250 to 265 employees at this site. Our architecture team took a lot of factors into consideration in designing this property. We have a cell phone tower on our northwest corner, and we wanted to make sure that our stormwater was retained 100% on site to make sure that there was no street flooding caused by this new development. And we also needed to make sure that we could accommodate the volume of trucks that will be circulating throughout the site. So as you can see here, the employee and visitor parking will all be on the north side and the east side of the property. The truck parking will be on the south side. And then on the frontage along Lejeune Road, you have our green area and our landscaping that'll beautify the street frontage. Next slide, please. This is a comparison of the typical parking space. So we've reduced it by about 1.5 feet, but that is a standard size space, not a compact space in Miami-Dade County. Next slide, please. This is an image that'll just show you the layout of the parking without the colors overlaid. It allows us to have about 50 more parking spaces, which means that we can accommodate that many more employees. Next slide, please. These are the renderings of the project, and they show you on this slide the frontage and facade along Lejeune Road. As you can see, we've landscaped it both on the street frontage, which is cut off at the bottom of the screen, and along the building with a large green area in the front. We have taken the inspiration of the Moorish architecture to put elements of archways and shadow boxes around our windows on the east elevation and west elevations. Next slide, please. Here you can see we have an entrance on each corner of the building and in the center of the building on the north and south sides. These also mimic archways in a modern translation. Next slide, please. This is a close-up of what the main entrance of the building will look like. Again, incorporating the columns and shadow boxes. Next slide, please. This is an entrance at the center of the building. Next slide, please. And this is the northern facade where employees and visitors will enter. Next slide. In a companion to our site plan, we have a development agreement that we will be entering into with the city. This agreement not only ties us to the design that I've showed you, but it creates a timeline for the development, which as I mentioned, we've already demolished the building and we're anticipating starting as soon as possible this year if we can, but in all likelihood, early 2022. We also have incorporated commitments to make sure that we do recruiting in the city of Opa-locka and bring employees, high quality, high paying jobs in the city of Opa-locka. That's part of the reason why we have incorporated office space here as well. We're looking to have not only truck driving jobs for the distribution uses, but office jobs, management jobs, and warehouse jobs, supervisor jobs that will hopefully be granted to all the trained workers here in the city. We will also, Prologis has a program that they partner with local schools to help with internships. So hopefully we can encourage students to participate and get some job training as well. Next slide, please. There are significant economic benefits to this redevelopment. Our expert Andy Dolkart is here, and I will introduce him to you. He can walk you through the statistics and the anticipated benefits that we have.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Andy Dolcart, and I'm the president of Miami Economic Associates with offices here in Dade County. As Tracy indicated, our work was to basically estimate the economic and fiscal benefits that this project would provide to the city of Opa-locka and to the county generally. And in that regard, in terms of jobs, during the construction period, 167 people will be employed either on a full-time or part-time basis, and they will earn approximately $2.8 million during the construction period. Once construction is completed, there will be 266 jobs on site and an additional 140 jobs off-site in indirect and those are indirect and induced jobs that support the on-site economic activity. Those 406 workers will earn approximately $17.9 million per year. To put those numbers in perspective, if you look at the statistics for the city of Opa-locka that have been prepared by the Beacon Council, they indicate that approximately 73% of the workers 73% of the businesses that employ workers in Opa-locka employ 4 or fewer people. And only 1% employ 100 or more people. Now, the business that was located on the site did in fact employ 100 people. That said, the new project that we're talking about tonight will actually have 2.5 times that number of people working on this site. So it's a significant increase in employment opportunities. And as Tracy indicated, the range of jobs will open up opportunities for people with all sorts of skill sets and levels of educational attainment. The city, as you know, has an unemployment rate that is higher than that of the rest of Dade County as overall. And it has a median income that is considerably less than that of Dade County and even further, even lower relative to that of the state or the nation. In this case, the jobs that will be on site, the average worker will earn $40,000 per year, which will be a figure for a per capita figure that will be 1.5 times what the average household or the median household in Opa-locka earns. So again, these jobs will be a significant boost to the economy. From a fiscal perspective, the project once built will be paying $204,000 in ad valorem taxes to the city on an annual basis, which is 1.6 times more than the former project was paying. So it's definitely benefiting the finances of the city. And of course, during the construction period, the project will be providing paying general building permit fees to the city, and will be making impact fee payments in an amount exceeding $800,000 for roads and fire. So again, it's a fiscal benefit to both the city and the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And again, these numbers are averages and estimates, but we anticipate that we will be able to, as he said, employ people at all education and income levels, which we very much look forward to. Next slide, please. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. We're very happy to bring this project to the city and help revitalize the Lejeune corridor. And I thank you very much for your attention this evening. And I'm here with the rest of my team to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Dottie Johnson, 13724 Northwest 22nd Place. My concern, great project, glad to have them to be a part of the city. But I know I mentioned before about the cell tower. And 2 of you all know why I'm mentioning it. We don't in the city of Opa-locka, we got two that I've never seen a public hearing. And although this is tonight and it's the final, I don't know, are they gonna connect with that? But I did hear cell tower. And I just don't think there's enough study done to address that. Secondly, the unemployment rate in the city of Opa-locka is high. And I heard about career source, but and I know that you can't tell a person to hire a person because they live in the city of Opa-locka. And I remember previously, you asked staff to bring back a plan. Now I have the package, but I don't see a plan. And so I have heartburns with that, and I'm on the fence. Thank you.
Citizens forum is open.
uh, 13831 Northwest 24th Avenue, Lamar Cruz. She just said something before I came, but I was gonna say that how we keep saying the numbers, what this gonna bring to Opa-locka, how many numbers, how many jobs and everything, but she just clarified something that you cannot, I guess, directly say that you have to hire within Opa-locka, but if it's keep saying like, oh, we're gonna bring the numbers, but then if we can't guarantee that, hey, you can hire from other people. You know what I mean? If is there some way we could say, okay, are you guaranteeing us that this gonna help Opa-locka? Are you just saying that, oh, we just presenting these numbers to you? Yeah, y'all unemployment rate is low. So we're gonna present these numbers to you, but actually we're gonna hire other people that we already got in plan. What is this? You know what I mean? Are you guaranteeing us these numbers? Is this gonna help Opa-locka? Or is this gonna help just get a business started for y'all?
All right, this is a public hearing item.
Madam Mayor, if I may respond to some of the comments that were made regarding the cell tower, that is a long-term lease that we don't have any authority to work around. But in our site plan, as you saw, we did landscape it and we've tried to beautify the area around it. But unfortunately, we cannot relocate it or replace it because we don't control the site for the cell tower itself. Now, regarding jobs and recruiting, that's something that we worked with your staff on quite significantly. They were very strong with us about what they expected. And we entered into some conditions on our development agreement that I think are unique to this project and that you haven't seen before. Most specifically, the staff asked us to work with the Beacon Council, the Meek Foundation, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and Miami-Dade College to expand vocational training and technical training programs for residents within the city. And we've committed to spend the next year working with them to do that. And it's something that your city staff has been making sure that the finger is on the pulse and that they are encouraging us and asking us to commit to work with them and the organizations that do job training and vocational training in the city to do so. With Career Source Florida, that is true. It's an agency that works throughout the county, but we have committed to prepare an outreach plan that will do recruitment here in Opa-locka and potentially have job fairs on the site once it's the right time for us to start the hiring. So with that, I'm also available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Does the commission have any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Commissioner Davis?
Thank you. I have a question in particular as it relates to the variance request that's assumed based on I guess a 10% office space threshold. I see I'm looking at the disclaimer in the presentation where it says parking and that I guess being assumed. What actually happens if the design of this project changes relative to the office space, the 10% threshold that's being presented?
If I may, Madam Mayor, our plan, it provides extra parking. We exceed the number required by code. So if there is a shift between warehouse and office and there is a need for more parking, we will meet the minimum standards by a significant amount. We base the number of parking spaces in this variance request to accommodate the estimated number of employees that we were going to have at a peak hour. You heard us mention that we expect to have approximately 266 employees, but we have 248 parking spaces proposed. That's in part because some of those employees will work nights and weekends when other folks are not there. But our goal was more parking spaces because there are more jobs here. And so the variance is really to accommodate the volume of people that we hope to employ.
And when you say you exceed the parking spaces, are you referring to our code or Miami-Dade County?
Your code.
Our code. So the variance request is to exceed our parking space requirement.
Correct. It's to allow for a smaller parking space so that we can provide more parking.
Okay. Has a traffic study been done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to speak to the design of the project, is there Moorish architecture included in the design? I didn't see any looking at the presentation and the images that were included.
If we can go to that last slide, that's probably the easiest one.
Okay.
We took a modern interpretation of the Moorish design. So you see how the archways create the appearance of a triangle, which is typical of a Moorish archway. We have layers of arches that shadow box the doorways and the windows and create the feel of what we were shown in your guidebook of examples of Moorish architecture that were modern takes on it. Our architect is here and he can help walk through that a little bit more. Carlo. But we did work with staff on this as well. You know, a state-of-the-art building, sometimes the modern interpretation is not necessarily the classical design, but we did want to make sure that we do honor the Moorish.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlo Mendoza. I'm at RLC Architects in Boca Raton, Florida. As you can see in these slides, these are the you know, modern interpretation of Moorish architecture. And basically, the way we design our elevations is, you know, as we're saying, it's a contemporary interpretation of the traditional Moorish architecture. The layering and screening, which is typical of Moorish architecture, is present while maintaining the use and colors approved by the city of Opa-locka. Additionally, the building, which has frontage on Lejeune Road, will also include additional ornamentation through painted reveals, which is a nod to the insets typically seen in Moorish architecture. By maintaining the aesthetic of Moorish architecture typically seen in Opa-locka and combining it with a modern approach common to the Miami area, the city's fabric is respectfully considered in the building elevations. If you go through the other slide, you know, these are some other examples of modern interpretation of Moorish architecture. And then the last slide, please. So as you can see, you know, we took some inspiration from our elevations and, you know, facade designs with these concepts in mind. So what we're trying to do is we didn't want to do a literal, you know, a translation, and you know, we figured, as I mentioned, the modern approach. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason why I asked is because I know, we try to stay consistent with some of our new projects in the city and in the spirit and the history of Opa-locka and our history, city's history and culture. We try to stay consistent with the Moorish design or Moorish revival architecture. I see that it's I guess a more modern approach to the design, which I think, it's okay. We usually ask that our developers include, more of the the older contemporary Moorish style. So, pretty much good there. My other concern is with the variance request, and I just want to make my colleagues aware. So typically, when you ask for a request from zoning, it usually comes in the form of a variance or a special exception. In this case, they're asking for a variance. And the primary difference between a variance and a special exception is that a variance request grants a property owner the ability to use his or her property in a manner that is completely against local regulations. So the variance request is completely against our local zoning code. Now, if it was a special exception, that would mean that we actually have a process defined within our zoning code to allow for the sort of developmental request that is being asked of us. So my question is, given that this isn't defined in our code, and even though it's consistent with Miami-Dade County, and given the fact that a traffic study has been done, what was those findings, if you don't mind elaborating on?
The finding in the traffic study is that the project completely meets concurrency. That even though, there are more parking spaces that will be provided, it doesn't affect the operations of the roadway. The driveways that have been designed can accommodate the turning movements of both cars and trucks coming into the site. And the findings were that this is completely consistent with the acceptable methodology for analyzing traffic and concurrency. The purpose of this variance, again, is to reduce the standard size of the parking space under the city's code. A 10-foot parking space is extremely large. And so what happens is it results in less parking spaces on a property. And we're just trying to accommodate everyone on one site with a typical parking space that you would find throughout the county.
Okay, so 250 parking spots to accommodate the new employment positions associated with this development within our community. Can you speak to, I guess, to some of the financials? Like what are the estimated starting salary or wages for said employees? Because we do know, we have the highest poverty rate with simultaneously the lowest earnings out of any city in Miami-Dade County. So for me, I would like to see, what those numbers are, because, I'm not in the business of bringing, opportunities that aren't economic, sustainable.
Absolutely. Commissioner Davis, the average employee salary on the property is expected to be in the range of $48,000. They will range, of course. Someone who is, on the maintenance staff, working on an hourly rate may not make the same thing as an office manager. So we provided an average. There are both indirect and direct jobs created. What that means is that there are jobs for people inside this new building, but then there are also jobs for people that won't necessarily have seats in the building, but they'll be on the sales force traveling around. They are marketing people. They are various kinds of regulatory people that would maybe work at a different office. But the volume of sales and the volume of revenues created by this distribution and warehousing use creates more jobs for companies.
Okay, and you say range, and then you also say 40,000. So is that an average, or is that the high or the low end for starting salaries? Because that was the question I asked.
It's an average.
So it's an average, okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Madam Mayor.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Okay, my colleague asked the questions in regards to the parking, so I don't need that. But considering the stats that you did on our city's high rate of unemployment and underemployment, what preferences will you be giving to the residents of Opa-locka?
In our development agreement, we have committed to work with Career Source Florida to have job recruiting fairs, both on site and through their main agency. We've also committed to working with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Miami-Dade College, the Meek Foundation, and the Beacon Council to expand vocational and technical training. And we're going to work with staff over the next year to put that program together, or to help facilitate them to put that program together. However it shapes up, we're committed to helping and to participating. And of course, as we do both our construction hiring and for future permanent hiring, all of our contractors and tenants will be encouraged to go through the same process with us.
Through the city?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we get a PR firm that's aggressive and speaks and knows how to message the job force here in our community. So how to get it to them. And I just want to make sure that Opa-locka is the first to sit at that table when you do start hiring. So just, can we commit to job fairs in our city, to promotions in our city, to PR in this particular city?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. A few things. So even the design is beautiful. I am a little concerned. So when we talk about the designs, which of course I'm always, especially when it's a PowerPoint presentation, I'm gonna start backwards. I don't know, I always do that. I love the two designs that we looked at that were in the back. I wish that there was some connection, because I understand the modern architect, the modern Moorish. I just don't see it with this project. Again, I love it. I think it's modern and it looks great and clean, which is what, you know, we need, but I'm not seeing the Moorish architecture connection. You know, and I would like to make sure, you know, if I'm going to move forward with this project, that I see it, and I'm not seeing it. That's first.
Understood. Would you, Mayor, and the commission be amenable to us working with staff as we go through our permitting process, assuming that's a condition that you give us this evening? We'll work towards refining the design as we go through the building permit process. And we'll do it with the planning and zoning staff to make sure that the elevations are give more of a nod to what you're looking for in the modern architecture, modern interpretation of the Moorish architecture.
Sure, definitely. I just, and if we can bring that back to, so that the commission can see before we move forward. I can't move forward until I see that markup, those designs. That's just me. I'm not speaking for the rest of the board. The second, and I'll let Mr. Gail speak on that if you want, before I move forward.
Mayor, members of the commission, we did work very diligently with them as it relates to this Moorish interpretation in a modern format. Actually, some of the examples that were utilized within the presentation were actually examples that we had forwarded to them. Now, as they always say, the devil is in the detail. It really comes down to what type of materials are going to be utilized, whether it be a stone material or whether it be some type of a tile work that was reflected in one of the examples that's really going to illustrate what the facade is truly going to look like. There may need to be some addition of color associated with it, because as the facade looks right now, it seems somewhat bland, and we've expressed that to them. But we want to basically continue to work with them and make sure that even though it's a modern Moorish, because it is a modern building within the city of Opa-locka, we wanted to basically humbly respect the Moorish architecture of the city of Opa-locka. And as a matter of fact, that is one of the items that we will be bringing forward to you on this agenda, relating to having a design guideline that's associated with this, that will be a tool to assist this and other developments relating to meeting that Moorish architectural reflection on their buildings.
Okay. And what I'm saying, Mr. Gay, is if we start a precedent, we can name it modern Moorish, right? And then we're starting a precedent because I have linear lines going a specific way, then I can put that name to it. But I think for us as residents, you know, we're not architects, so it needs to be clear. Like, we need to be able to see what that Moorish design looks like as we drive by and go through. Again, you know, so I think we can, again, perception becomes reality if you tell me that's what modern Moorish is. But again, we're not architects, but I need to be able to make sure that that is what it is. So I'm sure you all can go back to the table and come up with something that looks a little bit, to me, clear and succinct when it comes to the architect that we're asking for here in the city. Number two, I would like to know what maintenance provisions will, and I'm saying the company obligate themselves to avoid the building from falling into despair in the future, such as parking, landscape, asphalt. Is that something that needs to fit inside of the agreement? I would like to see that, especially since it is such a large structure that is going to be built, and there must be maintenance down the road. So if that's something that you can speak on. And again, the building falling into despair in the long run.
Yes, and that is a very good question to ask, because when the building is completed and it's brand new, there's a different appreciation for it versus the building as it is being utilized and through just natural wear and tear within the first 5 years, first 10 years, it doesn't have that same appeal and that same effect of visual love and lust that we would like to see. As a part of the development agreement, those particular things can be added on. We did not define that there would be some type of a maintenance plan or a maintenance agreement, but that is something that needs to be a part of the development agreement overall. We can basically add that information. There are some aspects of legislation regarding code enforcement that we already have that can be instituted within the development agreement to make sure that over a period of time, there is proper maintenance, having a painting schedule and a maintenance schedule overall, how often the windows and the overall facade is treated, whether it needs to be repaired in a timely manner. Those things can be reflected within the development agreement. So if there are any specific things that you have in mind, that we would like to be able to institute that as a part of the development agreement, but we will bring across the additional language, especially those that relates to the appearance code for code enforcement, and have that information in place.
Okay, thank you. And I think moving forward, Mr. Gay, that just could be something that we could, you know, discuss. And I think with planning and zoning, that should be something that becomes, and not trying to direct, but for planning and zoning to think about, you know, when in terms of the agreement. And lastly, not to beat the dead horse because it was already beaten, but I do recall myself mentioning several months ago about the jobs and those things that are connected to planning agreements and those that want to build here in Opa-locka. Nothing has transpired and I haven't seen anything. I think what we need to see is where's the after effect? So when, the presentations are always beautiful and they have a lot of lights to them and they shine bright. But when it's done, we don't know what are those numbers of jobs? How many people in Opa-locka were actually hired? Now, there has to be a way, because I'm not saying that there is, that we can go and do specific, like a survey, but there has to be a way moving forward when we're, in planning and zoning and those want to build in Opa-locka, that we can follow up and make them accountable for letting us know if Opa-lockians have been hired within, so that we here in the commission and residents, if, just saying career source is just, I don't know, but that just is not good enough for me. Career source. I mean, I love career source and I think they do an amazing job, but where's the follow-up on our part for us to know that we citizens are being hired? And I think if we ride by Lejeune and see those warehouses and see who works there, they don't live in Opa-locka. I dare say probably mostly live in Hialeah. And I'm just gonna say that's the truth. So we have to make sure and be clear that how are we supporting our residents? And right now, we keep seeing multiple planning and zoning, but I don't see the follow-up of how we're benefiting with what's being built. So I'm off my soapbox. Thank you. Oh, I haven't closed it.
Former Commissioner Gail Miller, 14235 22nd place. I think before you all vote on this, you all need to have a workshop, because I see you all asking a lot of questions, which planning should have sit down with you all before they even bring all this stuff into the city, because y'all asking all these questions, that means nobody didn't bring nothing to you all. So before y'all vote on this, I suggest y'all have a workshop so these people can come out and sit down and y'all can ask all them 1,000 questions before y'all vote on this. Thank you.
Okay. What I didn't do is close public forum. Thank you. Public forum is closed. Okay, thank you.
Mayor and commissioners, one thing that I do want to clarify is that there are economic benefits beyond just the jobs, which Andy spoke to some extent, but there are tax revenues from the increased value of the property and the building, which go about a 50% increase at this point, and probably goes up each year as not only the site is improved, but the value of property in general, Miami-Dade, is generated at higher and higher every year. That's millage that goes to the city. There will be permit fees and impact fees that also get paid directly to the city. So beyond the jobs, there are other benefits that will help your budget and help you to create new incentives and new programs for your residents beyond just what the employment opportunities are here. Regarding the maintenance provisions, we will work with staff to include those in the development agreement. That's not a problem. We're happy to agree to that and create criteria for not only cleaning and painting, but landscaping and other repairs. So we're happy to do so.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Davis.
thank you. I just have one question to add. Would there be any local contractors or subcontractors associated with the development of this project? And if not, can that be included as a part of the developers agreement?
Yes, so we have 3 separate provisions in the developers agreement about jobs. First was the training that I mentioned that will work with the city and the Meek Foundation and the schools to create and implement. The second is the job fairs through Career Source and in coordination with the city of Opa-locka. And then the third is that we will require our contractors to host local job fairs and provide a list of construction job openings to the city to post on the city's website. So our goal is to work with potential employees and hiring at every step of the process, from training for future employees to job hiring on site with our construction phase of the project, and then also the ongoing long-term permanent hires that we'll have once the building's operational.
So mostly like labor then, not really on the because I heard job training, Meek Foundation, between a partnership between the Meek Foundation and the city, and I heard job fairs hosted by local contractors. So
Plus the Career Source and City of Opa-locka hiring for the permanent jobs.
got it. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. One additional ask. The photos, and I keep going back to the last 2. If we can add the nighttime luxury lighting to, and I think that would be, that would bring a little bit more elegance to an industrial area. That would be great. And you have them on those last 2 photos. Thank you.
To make sure I understand that we come back prepared. What we will do is we will work on our elevations to make sure that it provides greater detail, provide you with more information on the modern interpretation of the Moorish architecture. We're going to provide both daytime and nighttime renderings of the building. And we'll provide some material sample details so that you can see the differences between the different treatments and the different layers of the design on the elevations. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, based on the inquiries that were made at the meeting this evening from yourselves and from the public, I would like to suggest that we defer these particular items to our January meeting. That way we will have time to respond to that and basically make that information available to you as well as to the public.
Thank you. Okay, so we are deferring item 1, 15.1, 15.2, and 15.3. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct, to January 12th, 2022.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Gay. Okay, at this time, we are on site on item 16A. Madam Attorney.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending the annual adopted general proprietary and special revenue funds budgets for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022, adjusting revenues and expenditures as reflected in Exhibit A, providing for the expenditure of funds established by the budget, authorizing the city manager to take certain actions, providing for appropriation of all budgets and expenditures, providing for fees consistent with appropriations and amendment, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Thank you. We need to move the item. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Mr. Manager.
Mayor, I'm going to ask that Bob Anthony come up and our budget director come and do his presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Budget amendment time again, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. This will be very brief tonight. There are a couple of pages on each of your desks just to follow along. The purpose of the first budget amendment really is threefold. We're going to bring in some projects that had intended to be spent last year. For whatever reason did not, we'll bring those in tonight. There are a couple instances where small things have arisen where we just have to tweak the budget slightly. And then you'll see there are a couple instances we're moving activities from one account to another account just because it's a better account to house that activity. So it's going to be a very quick presentation tonight. If I can have the first slide, please. As I said very quickly, we're going to talk to 17 items tonight, and the net impact is to increase the city's citywide budget by $900,000. Next slide, please. Broken the 17 items into 2 pages, 2 slides. First one is what I call the more significant ones. Spend a quick moment on that, and then we'll look at a second slide, which has the other 10 on it, which is much more of a housekeeping nature. On the first one, as you can see, I'm a little bit ahead of my interference based on the presentation you got tonight. It's a pro forma budget amendment. I had understood the grant was going to be for $108,500 and that there was a plan in place that in fact would use the $108,500. As you heard tonight, it is still a little bit in flux. So this establishes a placeholder and it'll be tweaked as the actual project firms up. I will point out this is funded by a grant, so it's by putting it in the budget this time, it does not tie up city resources. So it really doesn't cost us in terms of not having resources available. I will also point out that this is funded by a grant. First primary word here is service. So it means for the second year, it's going to be a charge like that. At the moment, I'm not aware of any grant funding source for it. If in fact the project is continued for second year and we're not able to find a grant source for it, then it'll come out of general fund. A couple other things very quickly, going to get a little wonky for a second. When checks are issued to various vendors and so forth and they're not cashed, it's a requirement that it be submitted to the state for them to hold for the vendor to eventually claim it later. Ideally, you'd like to have a check for each one of, let's say it's 100 items. You'd like to have a check for each one of those go up there to make it simple. It's all charged against one account. So we did not have the account set up for it this year. So that's why you see as a budget amendment at this point. It's being funded by the fact that the audit bid that came in is much lower than had been anticipated in the budget. So it's being funded by savings. The third item very quickly is there had been discussion that the Charter Review Committee might need a budget on a tentative basis. We just put $10,000 in place as a starter. My experience has been Charter Review Committees don't normally need any sort of budget, but it's there and we'll watch it. If the need does continue, we'll increase that budget. The next 3 items, as I said before, are projects that we thought were basically going to be started last year. They're really being started at this point. So we're bringing them this year from funding that would have been used last year. Among the 3 projects, essentially all grant money with the exception of fund balance on the Burlington Street Canal, which is about $150,000. Otherwise, it's grant money. The 7th item on the list there, again, this was something that was approved last year, thought it was going to be expensed last year, was not expensed last year. The money that was set aside for it went into fund balance. It'll be brought back out this time to pay for this project. Next slide, please. These, as I said, these are of a lesser nature. I'm going to get wonky again on the first item. What occurred here is hypothetically, let's say we had a project for $10,000 that was in the budget, was funded. And then for whatever reason, the decision was made to project really should have a $15,000 budget, but there's only $10,000 in the budget. You could fund the extra $5,000 either going into something like contingency, for example, or savings, or you can go out and get donations. Now, you might think that a donation would be used to really offset the expense in the account itself. It's not the way it's done in municipal accounting. What happened in my hypothetical project with $10,000 budget, we'd spend $15,000 against it. We'd have $5,000 sitting over revenue. That would provide extra funding to increase that budget by $5,000. This is what was occurred here. There was an event. It was higher than budget. There was donations that were received for it. So what we're doing is we're increasing the events budget and we're able to fund it through the donations. So hopefully that's reasonably clear. If I've lost anybody, please let me know. The next items 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, I'm sorry, 8 and 9 are all minor house cleaning things where things have come up and we're making small adjustments just to compensate for that. Items number 6, 7, and 10 are taking an activity that was in one account and putting it in another account. So that there's no change in how the money is going to be spent. It's strictly how the account it's going to be recorded in. And that's it. I stand ready to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Okay. Mr. Anderson, I have one question. It was number 7, the commission travel. I see it says it was, it's all consolidated. That's not going to be a problem in the long run if it's not, I mean.
No, ma'am, we'll have to track it. We'll have to track it on the sidelines.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yes.
why I was just
Yeah.
wondering, because.
No, it was intended, it was a commission request that there be 5 discrete budgets for various reasons that was deemed not to be a good accounting practice. So we rolled back together, but we'll just have to track it separately.
Got it. Okay.
Manually.
Yeah, that was just my question.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Davis?
Thank you. Really quick, Mr. Anderson, looking at item 1A on the budget amendment item, Shotspotter services, 108,000. If I heard you correctly, that's associated with a grant.
Yes, sir. This is, I mean, again, this is just a tie into what you saw at the outset of this evening on that presentation. And as the assistant city manager said, there is a grant in the works, and I had understood it was 108,500. It sounds like it's still a number that's being worked on, but that's the intention that that grant, in fact, would cover the full cost of the project for the first year.
Right. So I just want to make it clear, we haven't received it yet. This is just a projection.
As I said, this has now become a placeholder, just in case it does go through. And to the extent the numbers do change, we'll obviously modify the budget accordingly.
Okay, well, I guess this is a question to the manager. Have we thought strategically how we would finance, I guess, such an initiative in future years? Obviously, a grant would take care of the immediate need and, maybe one fiscal year or maybe 2, but usually, grants are not more than 2 to 3 years, and ultimately you have to find some bridge funding. So have we at least given consideration to, I guess, how we would go after those funds, Mr. Manager?
Commissioner, I'm glad you asked
Through
that
the mayor.
question because that's a conversation I had today with our police chief in relationship to that and his feelings about the spot shotter program. And he has some feelings about that. He has some thoughts about that and how we should look at it for future funding. And one of the questions I had with the legislature was whether funding that they're giving us going to be specifically for that, or is it going to say spots this particular program and another? It was alternatives. And so they were not able to finalize that yet for me. So hopefully within the next couple of days, I get that final comment from Frederica's office so we could decide. Because if it's just spots, that particular program, we're gonna have to rethink it because we're gonna have to go back to how we're going to be able to pay for that for the years ahead. That's something that the commission wants to do for the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years if we're willing to purchase that particular products. But I know with the new chief here, she's researching that, working with his deputy chief, looking at that to see what is the best process, the best way for us to make that happen.
Thank you. And I do know the entity did throw out the, I think, American Rescue Plan dollars, and I know that this commission will be workshopping that issue, and just want to bring this out, that we need to maybe perhaps look at those funds to potentially sustain that program long term. Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Annika. That's all, Madam Mayor.
And Madam Mayor, if I could just interject, I think one of the things, because our chief comes from a larger city that used this particular program, I think he has a lot of information, a lot of knowledge about it. In my conversation with him today, I really like for him to do a feasibility study to review what we've already talked about with his expertise, to look and see the feasibility of it in our city and where it should be at. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you, Madam.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Oh, it's a public hearing item. Public hearing is open.
Dottie Johnson, 13724 Northwest 22nd Place. I think it's a great idea. However, in order to forecast future usage, a grant doesn't have a long period of stimulation. And with the financial situation that you're currently in, I'm strongly encouraging you all to make sure, because this conversation has happened previously on other projects. And in order for us to balance the budget and to have that future thought of where the fund's gonna come from, yes, you got it 1 year, but what about the second year and the third year? So somewhere it needs to be documented. Either you guys gonna tell the commission, you having conversation, but it's not documented in a motion. So I strongly encourage that it need to be incorporated, because you're gonna be back a couple of years doing the same thing. And that's with anything with financial. I would like to strongly encourage you to look at that. Thank you.
Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Any other discussion from the commission? Okay. All right. We'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0, first reading.
Item 16A2.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 13 of the City Code of Ordinances entitled Historic Environmental Preservation Board to establish minimum standards for municipal historic preservation programs as set forth in the Miami-Dade County Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 16A 3.1, providing for board organization and qualifications, board duties and responsibilities, scope of regulations, definitions, administration and enforcement rules and regulations, site, district, zone designation process and procedures, demolition process and procedures, procedures for maintenance of designated properties, certificate to dig procedures, an appeals process, penalties and incentives, providing for severability, providing for conflict and repealer, rescinding all resolutions in conflict, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to move the item?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. City managers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gail will make this presentation on this one, and I think the next 6 items.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, Gregory Gay. This particular item is to basically update and enhance our Historic and Environmental Preservation Board. As some of you may be aware, we've just reactivated that board about 2 years ago, right before the pandemic. And we have put together, or should I say you all have put together, a very influential and very active board that really wants to pay close attention to the historic value of our historic properties in the city of Opa-locka. In the meantime, our legislation has not met up with par and stayed consistent with some of the legislation that has been passed with Miami-Dade County. And this is basically our attempt to basically catch up and make sure that our language is consistent with Miami-Dade County's rules and regulations as it relates to historic and environmental preservation purposes. Some of the main amendments that were proffered were relationship to the makeup of the board itself, along with some of the action items relating to standards and procedures, making sure that we go through the process of preserving our historic properties, not have them go through demolition by neglect, which is something that we have experienced in this city in the past, and just basically making sure that we meet those particular standards. By doing this and passing this particular legislation, we're basically sending a signal to Miami-Dade County that we're going to be consistent with all of the languages thus far, and therefore we will be able to retain our Historic Preservation Board as an independent board operated by the city of Opa-locka. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll address them at this time.
This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is closed. Are there any questions or discussion from the commission?
Just one question. I know that this.
Commissioner
well,
Davis?
Not really a question, but I know that this board is necessary, I think, to maintain our control over our historic structures. So I guess this is an attempt to update it and ensure that we're operating in unison and in regulations through the county's wishes. So kudos to Mr. Gay and the manager's office and all who was involved in making this revision and ensuring that we stay in compliance and we're able to control and maintain our historic structures. Thank you.
Thank you. Call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Baz.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0, first reading.
Item 16A3.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the dissolution of a safe neighborhood improvement district, special district, in accordance with chapter 189.071 Florida statutes and repealing ordinance 88-03 and ordinance 88-04 for the Alibaba Neighborhood Improvement District within an area containing approximately 45 acres bounded by the east by Northwest 17th Avenue, on the west by Northwest 22nd Avenue, on the north by Northwest 151st Street, and on the south by Northwest Alibaba Avenue, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. This particular legislation is to dissolve a safe neighborhood improvement district, which was created in 1988. And through our research, it has been determined that even though we were designated with this safe neighborhood improvement district along with two others, there was no action taking place to maintain and operate those particular improvement districts. There wasn't a board established by the commission. There wasn't an application made for planning grants to basically plan out how that action was going to be taking place over a period of time. And basically, since that time, or at least since the time that I've been with the city of Opa-locka, we have been experiencing that we needed to pay the state of Florida to the tune of $175, and in some cases higher, per improvement district in order to retain the designation. The designation has not had any activity thus far for either of the three improvement districts. And specifically for the Alibaba Improvement District, this particular area, some years later, was included as a part of the designation of the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency. So there is some sense of duplication as it relates to what the intent for the Safe Neighborhood Improvement District was trying to achieve versus what the CRA is seeking to achieve as its primary focus is to removal of slum and blight. So as a part of our research and basically we came to the conclusion that staff recommends that we have a dissolution of this particular improvement district along with the other two improvement districts strictly for financial reasons so that we do not have to incur that particular cost for an improvement district that is not operational or active at this time.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'll address them.
Okay, this is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open.
Dottie Johnson to the mayor, vice mayor and staff. Totally, completely supported. Since April 7th of 1988, the city has failed to submit any of its reporting according to Florida Statute 189.066. To staff, the city manager, well done, overdue since 1988.
Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion from the commission?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
thank you. I just have one point of discussion with the item. So I know that the original, I guess designation was the Safe Neighborhood Improvement District. And I guess now we're at a point where we're moving to transition into more of an innovation district based on, I guess, the will from developers and the opportunities that exist in the community. I know that, our CRA area or our CRA defined geographic area actually encompasses most of, what is the Safe Neighborhood Improvement District. And I do know our CRA addresses some of the slum and blight concerns. My concern in particular is, the safe part, right? The enforcement, because I know, the intent behind the item, looking at the location, we're talking about to the north, 151st Street, to the south, Alabama Avenue, in between 22nd and 17 avenues. If everybody in Opa-locka know that it is a hotbed area for crime and that sort of thing. So while I do know that, the CRA is addressing the slum and blighted areas, I wouldn't want I guess the safety aspect of that designation to go to the wayside. I know that's not exactly within your purview, Mr. Gay. So I will, share those sentiments with the manager's office and hope that, whatever policing strategy that we are utilizing, that it addresses that kind of shortfall, being that, we're deciding to move, that particular district in a different direction. So that's my only concern. Kudos to your department and the growth we've been seeing within the CRA and other respective areas throughout our city. But I just don't want to lose that initial focus, which is, safety and ensuring that that particular community that has been problematic over the years is given a considerable amount of attention. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's call for the vote.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0 first reading.
thank you. Item 16A4.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the dissolution of a safe neighborhood improvement district, special district, in accordance with chapter 189.071 of Florida statutes and repealing ordinance 88-03 and ordinance 88-11 for the east-west safe neighborhood district within an area containing approximately 100 acres bounded on the east by Northwest 17th Avenue, on the west by Northwest 22nd Avenue, on the north by Northwest 141st Street, and on the south by Northwest 135th Street, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Thank you. Let's call for the motion.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Mayor, members of the commission, this is the second of the 3 safe neighborhood improvement districts to be dissolved. This particular district basically encompasses a portion of the city of Opa-locka that is partially industrial, partially residential between 22nd and 17th Avenue from 135th Street up to 141st Street. With this area being majority industrial and not included within the CRA area, we do, based on the research that we've developed thus far, we don't see the relevance of continuing to have a safe neighborhood improvement district for this particular area at this time. As stated before, no board was established by the commission, no planning was made available, no application was made for planning activities to occur, and this is an application that was put in place since 1988. So based on that information, staff recommends approval for the dissolution of this safe neighborhood improvement district. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 first reading.
Item 16A5.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the dissolution of a safe neighborhood improvement district, special district, in accordance with chapter 189.071 of the Florida statutes and repealing ordinance 88-03 and ordinance 88-05 for the Nile Gardens Neighborhood Improvement District within an area containing approximately 320 acres, bounded on the east by Northwest 27th Avenue, on the west by Alexandria Drive, on the north by Northwest 135th Street, and on the south by Northwest 128th Street, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Thank you. We can have the motion.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gay.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, this is the third of the 3 safe neighborhood improvement districts that we are recommending for dissolution. Our recommendation is consistent with the reasoning that I've stated previously, that no activity has taken place to continue with this particular district to be in place since 1988 when it was designated. No activities have taken place, no board has been formed, no budget has been allocated, and we have been faced with the administrative fee from the state of Florida to maintain this designation. Based on that, we feel that there is no need to continue with this, even though this particular area is probably the one area that might be in need of this particular type of service. I think we can look at other opportunities to address it on a more immediate basis versus through this particular program. So staff recommends approval for the dissolution.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion from the commission? Hearing none, let's call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Baz.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 first reading.
Item 16A6. Madam Attorney.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending ordinance 15-31, the land development regulations to include the Moorish Revival Style Design Handbook, providing for definitions, permit and severability, codification, and an effective date, sponsored by the city manager.
Thank you. Call for the motion.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Taylor. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gail is going to present this also.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, Gregory Gay. This particular legislation is to address some of the concerns and some of the things that had not been addressed as a part of our update of the zoning code. In 2015, we did an update to our zoning code to speak toward new zoning designations and to modify some zoning designations within the city of Opa-locka. As a part of that, there were some references to design guidelines and standards being in place in order to implement what the commission and the community overall would desire, and seeing a more modern, Moorish type of architecture to be reflected in new development, as well as to assist in the preservation of some of our historic properties within the city of Opa-locka. Staff took it upon themselves to develop this particular handbook to basically be the design handbook to address those particular concerns. As you probably witnessed earlier this evening, we have been trying to nudge some of our developers to look at some of these particular design criteria, even though it's not a requirement, but something that would be recommended in order to make our new development occurring within the city to have more of a Moorish or modern Moorish appearance. We've actually had about 3 or 4 residential developments that have actually embraced this as a gesture to making sure that they pay their respects to the historic property that was previously on a site. So we have proffered this particular document. It is a document that's subject to modifications, and whatever necessary modifications that you feel is warranted, we will address them. But staff does recommend that we move forward with having this particular type of document in place so that we can use it as an official tool to guide development within the city of Opa-locka. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll address them at this time.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open.
Mark Cruz, 13831 Northwest 24th Avenue. Madam Mayor, you addressed it earlier, it need to be looking more like the Moorish thing, and we should apply that. We should really stand on that. Another thing, just like if you're gonna go by standards of what they do, when she said the parking space, she gonna make more room, but make a smaller space. If you notice, I go around, I drive everywhere, and some of them smaller spaces, there's not enough room to park a car. You know, 7 feet ain't long. That's a car length. And some of the newer cars, like my truck, one of my trucks, are 8 feet. You know what I mean? So when you say 10 feet, that's good because that's the door opening. You know what I mean? So certain things you have to, just like you say, stand on. You want to see it, and let's stand on it. If the look want to be look for the Opa-locka, and I'm an Opa-locka resident. You know what I mean? Born and raised, Phillips and Brownlees, born and raised. You know what I mean? So I'm an Opa-locka standing strong. I want to see that same look. You know what I mean? So we should try to apply, and you addressed it well.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Commission discussion, Commissioner Bass.
Thank you to Mr. Gay. Maybe it's me, maybe I didn't see it, but I just want to know, you said a handbook, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Vice Mayor just told me that it's in the back of the book. I just wish I had seen it earlier so I could take a really good look at it. So when we have other people come to us to want to build in Opa-locka, we would have already known what their options are. So we won't have to go through some of what we went through already for tonight. Saying that it's in the book, I would like to have a book to really be able to flip the pages and know what we're talking about. That's all. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Davis.
thank you. I just had one question. Looking at the agenda cover memo, I see that it is strategic plan related. So is the plan, what plan are we referring to? The comp plan, the comprehensive plan, like which plan?
It's the comprehensive plan as well as the land development regulations.
Okay, so it's consistent with the last update to the comp plan as well as that update to the land development regulations or land
Which is the
use
zoning
strategy, right, which is
Correct.
zoning code. Okay. All right, and we're just doing this because it didn't happen last time when we made the update.
When we went through the process of adopting the zoning code in 2015, there were some elements that were not included as a part of that adoption. We felt that it was time to put this in place to make sure that it's one of the tools necessary for our
Got it.
board
So
to move forward with.
got it. So this will serve as much of a guide to aid the historic preservation, historical development of new buildings.
Not necessarily the historical property. It's going to be a guide to basically assist for those properties that are historic, but at the same time, it's a guiding tool for new development in order for it to basically reflect and not necessarily mimic, but basically pay homage to our Moorish architecture within the city of Opa-locka. What a lot of other cities have, and they may speak to a Mediterranean design architecture or some other type of architecture. When this city was created, it was created on the basis of Moorish architecture, just like Miami Springs was created on another type of architecture. Hialeah was created on another type of architecture. Coral Gables reflects Mediterranean architecture. And a lot of our newer communities basically want to have some type of architectural significance to make it as their identity. Since we already have an identity built in, at least for the historic properties, we felt that for new development coming online, that it should basically pay homage and respect that historical fabric as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I want to, Mr. Gay, I'm looking at the photos that are here. Some look modern. See, this is where I guess what I was explaining before, it's up for interpretation. So some of these photos look modern and then some of them look traditional. So I guess when we say to include the Moorish Revival Style Design Handbook, are we saying moving forward, we're going to incorporate, or it's an option to have the modern design? Because I see a mixture of both here.
Yes. We've looked at it from two perspectives and given liberties to the architects relating to design for new buildings. We definitely want to have them reflect on the Moorish architecture design, not necessarily mimic it in some particular way, because we don't want to, for lack of a better phrase, we don't want to basically treat the Moorish architecture as if we're trying to Disney or Disneyfy the design. We don't want to do a carbon copy, but actually give the architects an opportunity to reflect and basically make sure that there is some Moorish motifs, some accents, some detailing, some imagery that's a part of the building itself, whether it be a modern building, but especially if it's a historic structure, we want to bring back that historic fabric that is already pretty much prevalent with some of our historic properties. So we're looking at it from two perspectives.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right. Okay, let's call for the vote.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor? Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes. First reading.
Item 16A7.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending ordinance 15-31, land development regulations to include Article 4, Section 22-101, creating the historic downtown Opa-locka district, providing for definitions, providing for permitted and prohibited uses, providing for development criteria, providing for special permit requirements, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Thank you. If we can have a motion.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gail will make a presentation of this ordinance.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, this legislation is to basically create a new designation for our downtown area. We're calling it historic because there are certain historic properties that are located within the downtown area of the city of Opa-locka, and city of Opa-locka is a historic city. But nonetheless, we want to create, in essence, a central business district zoning for our downtown area so that it will have its own particular character, its own particular uses, own particular regulations as to what type of activities can occur within the downtown area. As it is right now, our downtown has a mixture of commercial, industrial, and residential zonings within the downtown area. So at any given point in time, the property owners can basically say, well, I want to do something industrial because I can, because my property is zoned industrial. And just by the nature of it being close to the railroad right of way, they would be entitled to that. Same thing goes for the commercial areas and some of the residential areas. We wanted to create this type of mixture or central use for the downtown area that can be a mixture of different types of architecture, different types of uses, but it would be unique specifically to the downtown area. It will be controlled not as a overlay as we have right now, but as a standalone zoning district. And that way, if there's any zoning changes that are done to the B2 area or the I1 area or some of the other residential areas, those zoning changes will not have an impact on the downtown area. And likewise, if there's a zoning change specifically for downtown, it will not have an impact in other neighborhoods. This was presented before the Planning and Zoning Board. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval and staff recommends approval as well. If you have any questions, I'll address them.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed.
Madam Mayor?
Any discussion from the commission? Yes, Vice Mayor Taylor.
Through the manager to planning. Because this is historical downtown Opa-locka, what are the boundaries of this particular zone?
There's a core boundary for the downtown area. It basically encompasses the back area of historic City Hall. And it goes along Scheherazade to Alibaba Avenue, comes back to Opa-locka Boulevard, proceeds southward to West Drive, and then the most eastern core area is Bauman. So that is the core area of our downtown area. But as I stated before, we do have a downtown overlay, which kind of extends beyond those particular boundaries. And the downtown overlay extends from Northwest 27th Avenue along Scheherazade over to the connector.
Okay, so that's my question. What would be the difference between the downtown district versus the overlay? So will they have the same? Because one is smaller than the other.
The standalone district will have its own zoning classification, while the other wing areas to the east and to the west will have just the overlay where you have options. So
So they
those
can
property
and
owners,
cannot.
whether you're living in a single family house or you're living in an apartment building, they won't necessarily be required to follow the specific downtown zoning guidelines that will be within the core area. Now, ultimately, as development will occur over a period of time, we would like to see that this core area could expand, especially to the western areas, as we foresee new development coming online within the barracks area or some areas adjacent to that. We would like to see some things occur to that. And in essence, the downtown core could expand, but we felt the need that we needed to at least establish the downtown core for its core area for now as a standalone zoning district.
So are we potentially, this is potentially being a pilot program? Because I would, because of the development that is coming, the areas that are potentially to be developed are outside of the core area. So what I would have thought that you would have adopted the whole thing as opposed to piecemealing it.
While we are getting some interest in the western areas going toward the airport, we foresee that the core area has the greatest opportunity to be a real downtown.
Okay.
So we really needed to establish that. We need to have zoning that speaks to that. And as we look at mixed use and multi-use activities occurring within our downtown area with commercial or office activities occurring on the ground level with residential or office up above, going between 6 to 8 stories in height and creating that density that is truly needed within some of our targeted areas within the downtown core. This is what we're anticipating. We're actually getting a lot of interest since we've had the downtown master plan, which also speaks volumes as to recommending that the city move forward with this particular legislation. We strategically waited for the downtown master plan to be presented first so that you can get a broad brush understanding of how we anticipate not only just the downtown area, but the areas adjacent to it, but more specifically, how the downtown area can become the center of regional activity, and in essence, creating it as a destination within our city.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
thank you. Through the mayor to Mr. Gay, I also see that this item is strategic plan related. Can you tell me which document this is associated with?
This document is associated with the comprehensive master plan as well as the land development regulations with the zoning code. So this will be more specifically, a zoning change that will occur specifically within the downtown area.
Okay, and my next question would be, given the reason designation from the state of Florida, i.e. our downtown area as a main street, how does the HDOD zoning designation as well as the overlay, how does that work with that, with that new?
They actually go hand in hand. The downtown Main Street designation is to basically look at promoting uses and activities within our downtown core. And this zoning speaks to that same language. One is basically looking at the potential reuse of the existing structures that are within our downtown core, whereas the standalone zoning will speak toward future development.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0, first reading.
Item 16A8, Madam Attorney.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending ordinance 15-31, land development regulations to include Article 4, Section 22-102, creating the Opa-locka Innovation District, providing for definitions, providing for permitted and prohibited uses, providing for development regulations and incentives, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Can I have a motion to move the item?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Gay makes a presentation of this one also.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this ordinance is to speak to the creation of a innovation district for one of our industrial areas within the city of Opa-locka. As we see within media and in other information that is being provided, that innovation and technology seems to be one of the driving markets within the South Florida community. The city of Miami and other municipalities are creating these tech hubs or some type of innovation district in order to attract people from other markets, but as well as giving people within a particular market an area to focus on being creative and creating those new opportunities within the tech field. We did not want Opa-locka to be left behind as we see what's occurring within other areas of Miami-Dade County. And through some efforts with Mr. Corian Delane, who is the interim CRA manager, through his efforts, we felt that it was important to move forward with this language to create this innovation and technology overlay for one of our industrial areas. We see this industrial area, which is bounded by 22nd Avenue to the east, 27th Avenue to the west, the FEC railroad track to the south, and 151st to the north. While there is a lot of industrial uses that are occurring within those areas, we foresee that this is an area of opportunity where we can introduce, because of the size of the warehousing that exists, an opportunity for small incubator spaces or some type of a tech hub to occur. One of the sites that we were throwing into the hopper, even though it may or may not come to fruition, was looking at opportunities with our police facility, which we're looking to reposition and redevelop that particular entity. Maybe technology can be associated with that site or somewhere nearby. also looking at some of the other sites that are vacant lots that are nearby. We wanted to look at creating not just a sense of removing the industrial uses, but basically looking for opportunities to enhance those opportunities through technology and innovation. This was proffered before to our Planning and Zoning Board. They did recommend approval, and staff recommends approval as well. have
Thank
any
you.
questions?
This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
thank you. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Gay for bringing this initiative forward. I think, the potential of bringing this new special district or special innovation district is something unique and very important in our community. And the potential is obviously there to grow our city and create new economic opportunities. We've also seen what they've done in the city of Miami with their mayor and ultimately soliciting those businesses that are, those tech businesses that are in Silicon Valley to come to the South Florida community. And, we would love for Opa-locka to be a part of that conversation and the larger work that's happening here in South Florida. In particular, though, I guess I'm just looking at the change in the innovation district. How would that affect, I guess, current zoning like regulations? Like, so those businesses that are already in the area. And my second question will be, obviously we had several, special taxing districts, I think it was safe neighborhoods and those sort of things that were ultimately put into place, but was never, I guess, realized or reached its full potential. What plan are we putting in place, so that these particular districts that, that we're changing and putting forth tonight, what long-term or long-range plan will be put in place to ensure that these districts are developed in a manner that's sustainable long-term? Through the mayor.
Commissioner Davis, that's some excellent questions. As it relates to the previous districts that we're moving to dissolve, those particular districts were created through legislation with the state of Florida. So that is a separate or a different type of district versus this being an overlay district, which has impact relating to our zoning code regulations. So our zoning code is going to be the guiding tool along with the comprehensive master plan relating to whatever modifications. This is something that we're looking at long-term. We're not looking at this to be a temporary zoning category. And as the market may dictate, if there's more technology that's looking for an opportunity and they're seeking this particular location and things begin to grow, we will hopefully like to look at expanding it into other areas of the city of Opa-locka that have industrial activities taking place. As far as the second question you raised, this is an actual zoning overlay. So it's not going to change the underlying zoning. Within this industrial area, you actually have two zoning categories. You actually have three zoning categories. You have one zoning category for light industrial. You have another zoning category for more liberal industrial. And then you have zoning categories relating to civic uses, that being the police department, as well as the some of the uses along Northwest 27th Avenue. And then you have some commercial. So those primary zonings will still remain in place. This is just an additional tool to help us to motivate and guide and hopefully influence some type of entrepreneur who's in that tech field or who's in that innovation field to say, we have a place for you in Opa-locka for you to do your business. And hopefully, long-term, we will be able to develop some correlation where these businesses will interact with some of our other industrial areas within the city of Opa-locka.
Thank you, Mr. Guy.
Thank you. Mr. Gay, any other comments? Okay. Just want to give a personal shout out to you and to Mr. Delane and just all the items that have been brought to us tonight in terms of planning and zoning. A lot of wherewithal and thought process went through the items that I see that we're moving the city forward. So specifically with the innovation district, I think that this is going to be a game changer for our community. Also, I know that we've had our push and pull when it comes to just planning and zoning and what we're bringing to Opa-locka. I just want to make sure that, because sometimes, and I heard Commissioner Davis say, and kind of, I don't want to follow up, but it's the same thing. When it comes to zoning, and we talk about the 3 categories, there is an appearance that we change the zones depending on what, developers or who wants to, build or work or live or just contract in the city. So I think that as long as this legislation, we add more teeth and there's some room for some codification that we can add to it and make sure it's succinct and tight so that it's not on the books and 10, 20 years from now, we're back to a warehouse district or junk cars or anything like that. And so those are the things that I would like just to make sure that we're moving forward in that way. So I'm saying just, as we continue to build and flush through the legislation, just make sure that it is succinct and have the teeth to it that it needs. But again, kudos to you and Mr. Delane.
Thank you. And I'd like to give recognition to our entire staff.
To the staff, of course. Sorry.
Mr. Lee played an
Yes.
instrumental role in developing this language, and even Ms. Hall, with her real estate background, has given us some inroads as to what type of ideals. And when we have our discussions in our staff meetings, we really begin to hash those things out. So we're trying to be ahead of the curve in some aspects. Sometimes we're reactionary. I do understand that. But sometimes we want to place some things in place so that we want to see if the market will react to us and come to us. My ultimate goal at the end of the day is to make Opa-locka a destination. You come here to do what you need to do.
Thank you. And just to lighten the mood a little, I'm still waiting for my Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks to come. Seasonal caramel brulees happening right now. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr.
My pleasure.
Moving on. Thank you. Okay, so item 16B1, Madam City Attorney.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
call for the vote.
Talk about Starbucks. Call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0 first reading.
thank you so much for keeping me focused. Item 16B1.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, designating Curtis Drive from Sultan Avenue to Harem Avenue as Commissioner Alvin Burke Drive, providing for a repealer, severability, and effective date. First reading was held on November 10th, 2021. This is sponsored by Commissioner Bass.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor, second by Commissioner
One.
Davis. Commissioner Bass?
Thank you. I'm looking at Commissioner Davis as if you're gonna say something, right?
Yeah, I wanted you to move the item. You know, you worked hard on it, right?
I know, right? Anyways, thank you. As we all know that our former commissioner, late Commissioner Elvin Burt, who passed away on August 4th of 2021, was elected to the City of Opa-locka Commission in 2018. I actually met him during that time. And I'd heard so much about him, but never got to know him until serving with him on the dais. And I got to see his heart for the city, his love for the city. We agreed to disagree many times, but truth be told, Commissioner Burt loved his city, he loved the people, and he loved working for the people. So I'm asking you all to continue to support me in passing this so we can get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open. Okay, public hearing is closed. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor Taylor?
again, Commissioner Bass, thank you for bringing this forward. It's well deserved. And it's a good thing that we're honoring his life and his legacy in our great city. So I just want to say thank you again for bringing this forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. And Commissioner Bass, thank you. This is a great legislation, and we know that this is going to, serve as his memory and his legacy for years to come. So we appreciate you for proffering this item. If there's no more discussion, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Item 16. C1. C1. Madam Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, appointing, name to be determined, as a member of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, to fill the vacancy on the City Commission created as a result of Mayor Matthew A. Pygett's resignation, providing for incorporation recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the City Commission.
Thank you. Can we move the item?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Taylor,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. This is a public hearing item. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Okay, here we go. I would like to preface this with a few things. We know that this item is going to be discussed, and we're going to have some time, hopefully not as much, but we know that we need to make a decision today. I do, however, would like to preface some things. According to our charter, we do have some time in case we do have to go through another route. I would also like to say that there have been some discussion recently, as well as during the citizen forum, about highest vote getters and such as that. But I would like to say that we, as a commission, decided on another process. That process was not decided on. We came with the process of allowing everyone to apply. And so, I just want to make sure that we're focused on all applications and not focused on a process that is actually null and void. because that process should not actually be within this discussion. That is my opinion. Because we voted on application process, and it would be disrespectful if we don't review all applications and we just go off of a vote. So, or a vote getter. So that's just my preference. Also, if we can have a discussion before we make a motion to vote, I would like for us to have that discussion first. So we can have that discussion if you want.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor Taylor.
not really discussion. I went through all the applicants. I would like to nominate
Yes.
Ms. Audrey Dominguez.
Okay,
So that would be my nomination.
okay. Mr. Commissioner Davis.
I would like to nominate Audrey Dominguez as well.
Commissioner Bass.
I'm gonna be transparent as always, truthful as always. This was a very, very, very difficult decision for me to make. And for several reasons. And truth, honesty, fairness is what reigns with me. And I'm gonna continue to be that way, not taking away from any of the applicants at all, because I believe all of you were qualified more than I am. But with that being said, I would go with Audrey Dominguez.
Okay. My vote is for Commissioner Rose Titus. So we are, we've got Ms. Flores, we can.
So based on the
Yes.
discussion, there's 3 for Audrey Dominguez and 1 for Rose Titus.
Okay. So at this time, the votes go to Audrey Dominguez.
Can we just call for the vote
Okay.
for Audrey
Thank you. I was gonna
Dominguez?
say we need a motion, right?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Well, I think Taylor made the motion and Davis
Got it.
second.
Okay, so we'll call for the vote.
Vice Mayor, and this is for Audrey Dominguez. Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Congratulations, Ms. Dominguez. Okay. Okay, city managers report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a guest here today from 300 Engineering Incorporated. Mr. Aria Austin, would you like to introduce our guests and their presentation? Thank you, sir. Mr. Aria Austin is our Public Works Director.
Aria Austin, Public Works Director. As per our last award of the contract for the assessment of the Carroll Lane project, we decided to ensure that you got timely updates on the status of the project. And this is the first of such updates. And it's going to be given by 300 Engineering, who is the prime contractor for this project. Mr. Franklin.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, staff. Thank you for having us today. We are your engineer for Carroll Lane, which I know is a very important project to the entire Opa-locka. And I'm glad to give you a report and to mention that we're on track. Originally, as you remember, we have to do an assessment to identify exactly what was there, because a lot of things have happened and we needed to find out exactly what's there. Once we did the field investigation, we're going to do an assessment report. Then based on that, we're going to give a recommendation for design. Then we put the permits, then we do procurement, then we move into construction. So today, I want to give you an update as to where we are, and I'm happy to report we're right on schedule. Next one, please. As you can see, on Carroll Lane, if you look on the upper right-hand side, I hope you can see that there's a lot of debris to the left side of the road. And I'm sure you all been there. There was a lot of debris, just garbage, it was a lot, people just were dumping all kind of materials. We hired 2 contractors and we went through Enviro Waste and we went through the process of cleaning and coordinated the effort. And if you look at the 2 pictures at the bottom, you can see that it's completely clear. So we were able to clear the debris as per scope of work. We were able to uncover some drainage structure, infrastructure, which is what we needed to do. Currently, we're assessing all of these infrastructures that you have, and we're identifying what information are we missing. So on Carroll Lane, the status report is we remove all the scope within the scope of work, about 500 cubic yards. And, we're already doing the assessment and we've done about 90% of the surveying also on this area. Next one, please. On 127th Street, also is similar conditions, except in this street, we had a lot of oil materials and a lot of sludge inside of the drainage structures. So we actually have to hire a specialty contractor that can deal with hazardous material, suck it up, vacuum it up, clean it up. And I believe we're still pending 2 drainage structures that it's not concrete, but it feels like concrete. And we got to go back. And with that will be completed all of the field work on 127th also. We did about 81,000 gallons and the pipes are clean and all the assessment has been done. Next page. So I wanted to roughly show you our project schedule. I hope you can see it on the left-hand side. We started in September. We're in December now, beginning of December. We're done with the debris removal. We're finalizing the engineering assessment. The report is going to tell us exactly where we are and what we have to do. We're going to do that by the end of December. Then we move on January with the design, permitting, procurement, and construction. Currently, we have a schedule of March 23rd. In our last meeting, we said we're going to try to expedite it to get it done by December of 2022. We're still committed to that. And if everything goes fine, I think we should be able to do it. So I'm happy to report one schedule. We're getting it done. And sounds easy when I'm here. Poor Anna, she's a project manager in construction. As you guys know, every day there's something going on, but you don't want to hear about that or the good news. So the good news is we're moving forward and we're going to come back in 3 months and report that design is done and that we're ready for permitting. So with that, I'll leave it open for any questions, anything you want to ask us.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor Taylor.
To the manager, to the manager, is there any way on Cairo Lane that we can turn this into a one-way street where they enter in from 135th Street and exit out the other way?
Mr. Austin, would you like to respond to that first, please?
At this time, that is not recommended because 127th Street is not truly wide enough to accept the wide loads that traverse the Carroll Lane corridor.
You said it's not wide enough?
It's not wide enough. It's basically an alleyway. One aspect of it is a 2-lane highway, but as you come further west, it becomes a single lane passage.
Through 127?
Yes.
But if it's a one-way street?
It's not wide enough to accept the loads that
Oh,
traverse
wide
the
enough,
roadway.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to recognize the guests that we have in the room today. For the last several days, my staff and I have been entertaining his inquiries about some of the things that we do in our city. And it's been very refreshing and very open-minded. And, we always have a conversation on every Friday with this young man and his, sometime with his boss. But he currently works with Inspector General Miguel, who is responsible for the financial oversight with the state of Florida. And he's in our room. And I just was like, I know he said he didn't want to speak, but if he could just raise his hand, Mr. Brian Hunter from Tallahassee. And he's going to be here for another day. And he's trying to, at some point, maybe get opportunity to speak with some of our commissioners and mayor. But I just wanted to introduce him since he was a special guest in our audience today. Also, we will, the manager's office does not have a report at this particular time, but you'll be sure to be receiving something from our office that's very much in detail over the next week or so about our accomplishments over the year. That's all that we have, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anything for the manager's office? Anyone? I just wanted to, and I'm not sure if this is, well, through your office to Mr. I went blank, I'm sorry, it's late.
Mr. Hunter?
No, you here. No.
Mr. Dalton?
Mr. Austin.
Sorry, Mayor.
I told you I need coffee. Went blank. I know last time we discussed a pamphlet, a mailer, something, and I'm saying this to both the manager's office, to you, Mr. Austin. There are housing here in Opa-locka that have, it's neglected, between out of control, grass not being cut, yards, trees, junk in the yard. And I know, the power is the lien or the fines, but at some point, when are we going to, and I think this is an opportune time that, this is the new year, like they say, new year, new me, that we have to address this. Like, this has to be addressed because there are just too many. There are residents, and as you can tell, and I don't know about the commission, but I'm sure they would agree with me. You have, during the pandemic, you had a lot of residents that save money and is using that money to the beautification of their homes. And I'm not saying everybody can afford that or can do that, but there are some small changes that can happen with the beautification of property. And I know we talk about property, and that conversation has been a lot geared toward city, but I don't feel like we're focusing on residential enough. So, and I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but driving around, there just has to be more because something has to be done. So I don't know if the manager wants to address that.
Yes, ma'am, I can address that issue. Thank you very much, Austin. Probably need to call Mr. Gay back up to the podium on this issue. Sorry about that, Greg.
Mr. Gay been talking
But
all
we've
night.
been, and I know he's been up and down all day, but we've been talking about this issue, and we've been talking about this issue very intensively over the last several weeks, along with our CRA director, Mr. Delaney, along with individuals from the code enforcement department under the police department. And we're addressing that right now. We're putting some things together to address that particular issue, which eventually is going to have to go back and deal in our hands of dealing with our attorney, with the city attorney, on how we deal with that legally. Some of the things that we've progressively moved on. I think several properties right now we have in a particular a process going through the court system. Am I correct, Mr. Gay?
Through the manager?
Yes.
There is one property that is actually being proffered before the Unsafe Structures Board with Miami-Dade County. We should be on their January agenda to address that particular property. But as we've had the discussions over the week, and matter of fact, I would say over the last few months, we do have some pending legislation that we want to bring before you to deal with some of the property issues and property concerns. I know Commissioner Davis had proffered legislation, and it was probably over a year ago, where there will be a register for properties that had issues with them, whether it be code violations or things like that. And we could have a register put in place to have a company address those things on our behalf, as far as the citations, fines, litigations, and moving them to a place where either the properties can be foreclosed on, or they can move through a code violation review process where the issues relating to the properties can be dealt with. So we do have that legislation. It wasn't quite ready for this agenda. And I think, quite frankly, we dealt with a lot of things on this particular agenda. So that's something that we are finalizing through the attorney's office. And we'll be bringing that legislation back before you with hopefully companion legislation of a company to be the registrar for our troubled properties within the city.
Thank you. And not to prolong the meeting, because I think Vice Mayor Taylor is going to adjourn me in a minute. But I think we're talking about apples and oranges. I understand the unsafe property, the foreclosures and all that. We've talked about that before. I am talking about everyday residents that own a home and those that code enforcement either comes to or don't. I'm just gonna keep it real. And maybe get, a citation. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And then what's the follow-up? Do we just keep citing? And then again, I'm saying, and I said this again before, when do we start letting people know? And I'm not trying to compare us to Miami Gardens, but this is exactly what Miami Gardens did before they started, a beautification of their city, is to let residents know what the rules are. These are the rules. Out in the agenda item, in the agenda packet, you had a color scheme. That's the first time I've ever seen that. I didn't even know we had specific color schemes that houses should be in Opa-locka.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, or fences that go above me, or not boats, but yachts that are in yards. I'm just saying, like, these are the things that are happening and it's not being addressed. And at what point do we send out, it's a 1 or 2 page document that says cease and desist if you're doing X, Y, and Z and ABC. And this is what can happen, potentially can happen to your property if you're not cutting your grass, if you're not cutting trees back, if you are not taking cars that are non-functioning off your property, or structures that are about to fall. That it has to be something that we can start, because I hear the legislation, but that is down the road. What can we do now? And this is like the second, third time I am saying this. So I would just like to see that mailer come to my mailbox and I can feel like I can sleep at night.
Madam Mayor, through the manager, we have provided our public information officer with the information needed to enforce those values on our residents, especially with swale maintenance and tree trimming, grass upkeep. She's formulating the flyer that would go out to each residence, and also we'll be posting that on our public information outlets to advise the public of these requirements.
And do we have a timeline of when that's going to be mailed?
I will provide a timeline through the manager's office.
Okay.
Did we get back with you
Thank
on
you.
that? Sorry, Madam Mayor. We'll get back with you on that sometime, maybe before the end of the week. I'll talk to Mr. Marcus about that today.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Taylor.
Oh,
Okay. Taylor, I think it's first, so
Taylor.
no matter.
Mine's quick.
Okay.
2 things. Number one, to the manager, I was able to visit Nathan Leon during the week.
Yes, sir.
And when I talked to a lot of the parents, their biggest concern was not having a crossing guard on 22nd Avenue in Rutland.
Okay.
So, and they said there was one there before, but that particular person was moved. And then there's a further down, there was a crossing guard there before, and so there's no coverage on 22nd Avenue. So can we deal with that? The second one is on Wilmington Street going east it's the second house. There's a tree that they're complaining about that's scraping the top of their, I'll get the exact address of the house and
Okay.
and I have Randy to email it to the management
Please.
office, but they just are asking that we trim that tree. But the biggest is that, the biggest, and the sign on Wilmington is down, and the crossing guards for 22nd Avenue.
Okay, our police chief would take care of the crossing guard issue. He would address that, and Mr. Austin would take care of the tree issue.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to kind of chime in on the issue. I know we were discussing the kind of running fines and that issue within our community. When I was first elected in 2018, we noticed that that was a prevalent problem, which is the high fines associated with those properties that have been neglected and or have absentee owners. The prior process was that those running fines would inevitably come before the commission, and the commission will vote yay or nay on each case individually. Me personally, I had a problem with that, and actually led the charge by expressing those concerns on the DS to the city manager's office, who then in return came up with a amnesty program. So as you know, code enforcement, we're not in the money-making business. We don't want to take properties in that sense, but we do want our property owners to come into compliance. So that was actually the intent behind the item, not to, necessarily take properties, but to encourage them to come into compliance. And then also, code enforcement isn't a money-making business, right? So, why would a resident, have a $300,000 fine on their home, right? Like that's not, becoming of your city. So that was the reason, why we elected to come up with an amnesty program and then address, the kind of absentee owners through the vacant property process by creating a centralized list where those owners will be a part of that list, and we will know where those properties are for a matter of, enforcing fines, right? Or just knowing that those properties are vacant and, ensuring that, our police department and the administration is aware of it in the community at large to encourage safety. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. We didn't really want to, take the properties and do that sort of thing, but we did want them to come into compliance because, that's also a beautification issue, right? If they are not cutting their grass or not maintaining their properties in a proper manner.
Thank you. Any official board reports?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Future agenda items?
Madam Mayor, I have one future agenda item.
Okay.
I want the commission to consider a pilot program, a 6-month, not to exceed 180 days of closing the city for one day. So going to a 4-day work week, because a lot of residents are complaining that they don't have access to the building after 5 o'clock to pay bills, to stuff like that. So for service-oriented employees. So I just want us to consider doing maybe a pilot program.
Madam Mayor, can I just?
Yes.
Okay. I do know that other municipalities follow a 4-day work week. I think Miami Gardens still continues. Yeah, they're 4-week kind of work week. I mean, I'm open to it. I've thought about it in the past. I don't know if it's necessarily the right fit for our city, but I'm definitely open, to some sort of trial run to see, how it goes and if it does increase the service delivery and, effectiveness of our services. Accessibility is an important issue, and we definitely want to be available for our residents. So, in my opinion, did you say 6 months? I think was
6
at the
months, not to
time.
exceed 180 days. So just like a pilot program, a trial run, to see how it works out, but for service-oriented employees.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. Have you had a conversation with the manager's office?
Not yet.
Just to see, okay,
Not yet, but I wanted to bring it to the commission first to see how you all thought about it, and then
yeah.
then we'll go that route.
Yeah, I'm definitely support it, the initial trial run, and I would love just to kind of get the manager's perspective. Simply because he's a little bit more hands-on, you know, with the day-to-day and may have some you know, some responses and some concerns about it. So I'd like to hear that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Taylor. I've definitely heard of the program and know that Miami Gardens and a few other municipalities do it as well. I think I'm probably just do some homework on it. And again, just as Commissioner Davis says, speak with the manager's office, but I'm all for looking at something different. Okay. Any mayor commission reports?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Davis.
I just have one thing. We held in November, we held our annual turkey giveaway. So I just want to be sure that we acknowledge our Parks and Recreation staff, which was on hand, the manager's office, as well as Public Works and our police department, which all lended a helping hand and really pulled together as we celebrated the holidays and in the spirit of community, gave out turkeys to our residents. It was a great event, well attended, had hundreds of residents, gave out hundreds of turkeys, a lot of smiling faces before the holidays, which is always warming to the heart. So I just want to thank our staff. Thank you to our sponsors, Big Al, 103.5 The Beat, Papa Keith, Foot Locker, Miami-Dade County, and Mayor Daniela Levine's office. Thank you to you all. It's very important and very impactful when we have these sort of opportunities where we're able to give back to our community in a fruitful manner. So thank you. And thank you to my colleagues who are also in attendance and supported as well.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Bass? Nothing? Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to Commissioner Davis for the turkey drive. For the turkey giveaway. I was at the Classic. However, I heard great things about it, and probably one of the biggest and best turkey giveaways, Opa-locka, at least in my 40 something years. So, I mean, really, honestly, great job. And again, thank you, Commission, for the tree lighting that happened Friday night. I believe it was Friday night.
It was a concert.
Concert corral. So we're moving forward. We want to continue to make sure that we're doing activities and events that our residents can not only just be involved in, but be proud and look at Opa-locka and see that we're moving Opa-locka forward. I also would like to just give a thank you to Mr. Grice and Ms. Mawkins' office with supporting me with turning in an application for the Meek Foundation grant. Turned in a $10,000. We went for the gusto, $10,000 grant application. We're waiting to hear back from them, and that will be connected to the I Am Opa-locka initiative. So be ready, and I'm claiming it that we're going to get the $10,000 so that we can begin to market. And because you all know that's what I wanted to do from the beginning, is make sure that we change the narrative of Opa-locka and market ourselves so that no matter what news, good, bad, or indifferent, if you live here, you know that this is a great place to be. So, Moving on, any official board appointments?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we did a ordinance to bring back the charter review. So with that being said, I want to make an appointment, and I'm going to make my appointment to appoint John Riley as my appointment for the charter review.
Okay. I would like to appoint Ms. Janie Russell to the board.
Okay, and I would like to appoint Ms. Nakisha Williams to the board.
I would like to appoint Ms. Finn. Ms. Finn. No. Yeah, that's Finn, yeah. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Finn, last name Finn. Makisha Finn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but I do have a question, through the mayor to the clerk. We have 5 individualistic appointments and 2 at large. So now, but I know the 2 at large is the
Our
college,
advisory
from the
only.
college. Okay.
Yes.
So can the board start meeting with what we have so far with the 4? Or will we need to get everybody?
I believe they can start. I mean, that would be a question for legal. I would have to read the legislation as well. But there's definitely a quorum because there's 5 voting members and you're appointing 4 at this time.
Okay.
Madam Attorney.
Well, my recommendation would be that you seat all of them, or at least you seek to start appointing all of them, because your board is, it would include the advisory board members, the non-voting members as well, so.
Okay, but, okay, here's the, because we're waiting on St. Thomas to provide us those students from their law program, so that's, would that,
I'm not sure I understand your question.
the 2 at-large appointments are advisory students from St. Thomas. So at this point, we're waiting on them to provide us those students, so, but they're only advising, they're not non-voting members, so that's why I'm asking, can they still meet, or do they need to physically be there in order to, for the board to proceed, even though now we have a quorum?
I understand. So I think that my recommendation is that you try at least to, because that is your board includes those people in addition to the other appointees that you all individually would have as an appointment. So my recommendation is that you at least make an attempt to get everybody seated before you start having the meetings. Maybe everybody doesn't come, I don't know, but at least to, try to move forward in that direction.
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Just a recommendation. I don't know, Vice Mayor Taylor, let's give St. Thomas a deadline. If they don't respond, I think that we need to move forward. I do know Florida Memorial have law studies and FIU as well. So if we can, just whoever bites first, then we can move. And even if those 2 at large come from 2 different schools, I think it'll be fine as well. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn in my Burke voice.
Second, anyone second? Everyone seconds. Thank you all. Have a great night. And once again, congratulations, Ms. Dominguez.